Chapter 11, The Great Tyrant Receives His Loans. Chapter 11, The Great Tyrant Receives His Loans. British Ministry of Magic. Office of the Minister of Magic. Point of view: Eugenia Jenkins, Minister of Magic since 1968. My name Eugenia Jenkins, I am the current Minister of Magic and the youngest in the history of magic. Today was another day at the office. I had worked hard to get where I am and I have been a minister for 1 year, but what they don't tell you when you take the job is what kind of shit are you getting into. Because if you make a mistake between smiles they tell you that you are not ready for work, ungrateful fools. Now I have problems with the pure-blood nobles, who do marching riots for the rights of the squib, and I also did not like some rumors that circulated of a Dark Lord, but especially the visits of the old Albus Dumbledore. Always telling me that another war is coming and that I should prepare, but there was something wrong with her story and I couldn't point out what it was. However, the nosy old man had great influence and had to listen to him, or at least pretend to listen to him. Now I have another problem, and that is that Lord Dakin is here in the ministry paying his debts and taxes. If it sounds good that he pays his debts, but don't be fooled by that man, and according to what I could discover from Lord Dakin, is that he is a very vengeful man, and for a small thing he will make you pay a high price. When Lord Dakin first came to the country, he was unknown to everyone. So I had to find out about him and found out that he seemed to have great friendship with the Goblin nation. Then find out through some bribes that Lord Dakin is idolized as a god in the kingdom of the goblins and known as an invited warrior, magnificent accountant and businessman. According to my source of information, every business he has done is a gold mine and generating a large number of galleons. I also heard the little rumor that he is the richest man in the world, however, I have not been able to confirm. Now you wonder why I am so alarmed, and well, he is in the finance department paying his taxes and debt and other things. The problem is there, because Lord Dakin is a man who if pressed will make you pay at a high cost, and those old idiots of the Wizangamo pressured him to pay. By the time Lord Dakin makes his mess in the ministry, I'm sure I will be blamed for that and for not taking responsibility. My door slammed open and shut. It seems like it's an emergency. Raising my head I look at the finance chief of the Ministry of Magic, with an expression of total panic and utter fear. Oh my Merlin, this is where my headache begins. I know from his face that Lord Dakin has made his move and that he completely ruined the prepositions of the Ministry of Magic. I will have to pass this problem on to the Wizangamo, and to be honest I want to see the faces of those foolish old men in despair. Because if there's one thing I'm sure of, it's that this man is going to ruin us all in the Ministry of Magic. Max's point of view. Current trial in the finance rooms. In the presence of the Wizangamo Council of Elders. I was standing on a podium, waiting for this debate or trial to start over my little loan application, and I had it all set up. I was going to make these old people cry tears of blood. Minister Eugenia says with seriousness and authority, we are here today to listen to Lord Dakin's claim about the loan of galleons that the noble and ancestral house of Dakin lent to the Ministry of Magic after the war with Grindelwald. A loan which should have been paid 12 years ago. Now almost 22 years have passed and no galleon has been paid to the Dakin vault. Lord Dakin has the floor. I sigh within myself and prepare to put on a magnificent performance, so dramatic that I would surely be awarded an award for my performance. Wizards and witches present, my noble and ancestral house of the Dakin has suffered loss for more than 22 years, I say in a dramatic and continuous way. We wait for the payment of the galleons, but there was no response from the Ministry of Magic. I sigh and I prepare my next dramatization. Returned yesterday after completing my family's tradition of traveling the world for 3 years. But as I said, I just arrived in Britain yesterday, when suddenly I was told that they had to pay the debts of my Dakin house, and out of a total sum of 96,785,468 galleons, it seemed strange to me as the ministry owed galleons to my Dakin house. So I happily assumed the ministry had paid the galleons owed to me. But when I asked my account manager if the ministry had paid for the galleons, and I looked at myself as if I were crazy, since they said they have not paid anything yet. That is why I am here before you today to request that the debt be paid, I say with tears in my eyes. I was clearly immersed in my dramatization, and even I was surprised myself at how good my acting was, but then I remembered that I had the broken trick of instant mastery. So how much is the debt? Lord Bones asks. One of the elders bit the adze. It's time to bait and feed these fools with my dramatic story. In a deep and moving voice, to make it more shocking and dramatic, I say the loan that my grandfather Maximus Alexander Dakin generously made to the Ministry of Magic in a time of crisis in 1948. Was for a sum of 331,212,345 of galleons, with an increase of 9% for each year until the term of 10 years, and that would be a sum of 784.100.0741 of galleons. From 1958 onwards it would increase 15% for each year, and the debt continued until this year, finalized in a total sum of 4,195,131,504 galleons. In this document it can be seen that it was signed in 1948, by the very Minister of Magic Wilhelmina Tuft, and who was in charge at that time. I can see the incredulous faces of the person in the room, but continue saying I would also like a 25% compensation for the loan delay, which would make a net sum of 5,243,914,380 galleons for the injustice that was forced my Dakin house, and since even our warehouse of confidence was almost forced into poverty. Here are the documents from the vault of my noble house Dakin, approved by the Ministry of Finance through the years, and my noble house Dakin has suffered. I hope I can solve this today. The reporters were sweating cold, but they wrote like crazy, and the lords of the Wizangamo almost defecated in their pants. When looking at the minister, she had a face of delight, but she hid it quite well. Many people were dismayed that the ministry owed so much money, and they wanted to collect from the person they owed. I gave them time to digest the news, but I was saving my final thrust to ruin the ministry. Well, it's time to finish off these bastards and leave before he refuses to pay me, I think, and say I'm going to go to the point, so as not to waste our precious time, and it is that under the laws of the Finance Ministry of Magic of the year 1840, clause number 377. Where it is pointed out that a noble and ancestral house of pure blood in bankruptcy and can demand that the debt that said noble and ancestral house made when it was in favorable conditions be paid. To be able to get out of debts is now in tragic conditions. I say, I take strength for what I will say, and say I, Maximilian Stephen Dakin, Lord of the noble and ancestral house of the Dakin, I demand that the entirety of said debt be paid to me, and under the ancient laws of the magic as a witness, so be it. Thank you for your time, wizards and witches present, to testify my request, and have a great day. I walk with style to the door, but with a fast step, since I don't want him to make excuses for not paying, and on the way I find my old goblin smiling at me and waiting for me with a portkey in his hand. That he would send me to the Gringotts, I quickly took it and left behind a ruined Ministry of Magic fools. Ha ha ha. This was a well-planned victory by my grandfather Maximus. I have to admit the man was very smart and just had to follow his plans. Gradually open personal accounts at the Gringotts Bank. then open a secondary family winery where all the galleons of the noble house Dakin will be deposited, and you must from time to time drop a couple of galleons here and there from time to time in the main cellar. Ka bomb. You set an epic trap, which ruins the ministry. Point of view of Eugenia Jenkins. 4 weeks after the dragon tyrant Dakin came to the Ministry of Magic, and that's what we call him now around here at the Ministry, since everything went as I predicted. He completely ruined us under our own laws, made us eat shit, and when we realized he was gone, now we can do nothing but start paying him. The problem is, he threw us at the goblins as collectors and hid behind them to collect from us. They quickly took all the accounts of the Ministry of Magic, looking up and down in the finance records of the ministry, they quickly saw where they could get the galleons to pay. They even discovered that various wizarding families and noble and ancestral house owed galleons to the ministry. They also discovered that even other ministries in various countries owed our ministry an astronomical amount of more than 15 billion.00 G. I never saw so much gold in my life. Now the positive part of this disaster is that the dragon tyrant Dakin unintentionally put an end to the manifestations of the squibs right and ruined every pure blood, because it turns out that after 3 days of collections there was no money for more protests. The pure blood nobles went to work to live in their luxuries and had no time to waste in demonstrations. Now I believe that I will finish my term as minister and I will retire without any protest. Ha 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 ha. One peculiar thing that I noticed is that of the 28 noble and ancestral houses, 18 noble and ancestral houses came with representatives from the Gringotts. You may notice that 4 debts had been bought by the Gringotts and 14 debts came from the direction the dragon tyrants Dakin, who surely bought the loans before this disaster. I felt like he was the only one who could do this, but shut this up for myself and why I don't want to become an enemy of the richest man in the world. Now you will wonder why I keep quiet. Well, that's simple, because the dragon tyrant Dakin approached me and bought a certain amount of large land. He suggested that if it was in secret, because he told me that he was building a magical city for wizards and that muggles would never find it. Well, the minister's salary is not much, so I told him that I would keep it a secret if he could get me a mansion in the magical city, and he agreed. Furthermore, he told me that it will be extremely safe and will be guarded by dwarfs, goblins, and other magical creatures. If I play my cards right, maybe I'll work for Lord Dakin in the future, of course after I quit my job as minister. Who didn't want to work for the richest man in the world? Comment. 6 comments. Vote. Chapter 12. Chapter 12 Summary of 6 months of hard work. Chapter 12 Summary of 6 months of hard work. Max's point of view. For 6 months nothing remarkable happened in the magical world. However, the magical city was already in the final stage, and I have to say that the dwarfs are the best builders in the world, and they even improved my model in certain areas. So with no other option I had to upgrade to an even more expensive and ambitious one. I would modestly say that it will be a little Babylon. Also, with the knowledge of the library of the path of magic and instant mastery, apply other things beyond the imagination of the magicians, which I will leave for the future. I also formalized my love relationship with Bella and Rita. I think they both like it when we do threesome sex, and because they help each other. At first my wives didn't get along and I had some rivalry, but after having wild sex with me a couple of times, my wives started to see themselves as comrades in their fight to defeat the dragon tyrant, and it's something that I really liked. Haha. I also made them go through a white ritual of purification and physical enhancement. Let me tell you that my wives became more beautiful and powerful. almost at the limit of the Great Witch rank, and if my calculations are correct, in 5 years, they will reach the meddlesome old man Albus in magic power. I also published 18 books on white rituals, which I gave the name of The Forgotten Magic of White Rituals, How to Live More Than 500 Years and Look Beautiful. Sure, there were some things that I saved for me and my children, but most were useless to me. So he decides to give the opportunity to improve other magicians, and of course it was a total success. At first there was opposition, but when they saw that the white rituals only required runes and dates of specific days, everyone wanted to participate, and of course why not live 500 years quietly only with white rituals, and this would also help with magical traditions and culture. I also published a published book called The Lost History of Wizards with Records Morganas of Fay and Merlin, in which he explains that Muggles are relatives of wizards, of children of the first wizards and witches from which the first were born. Squib. Over time they reproduced and then forgot their magical roots, forming their own peoples and cultures. In addition, I also wrote the history of the first wizards and witches, which tells that a long time ago there was a war with a demon, and in the end only 5 wizards and 5 witches were left alive, of which pairs were formed and reproduced around the planet. As they passed the generation of the first non-magical child was born, who was called Squib, and from there the term Squib was born. Little by little more and more Squib were born, but they continued to be united to the magical community as a master in potions or recorders of history. Time passed, the Squib were married among magicians to strengthen special abilities, since the Squib were born with a rare condition, which strengthened the magic of born magicians. However, the age golden of magic came to an end by foolish magicians, who made contracts of black or evil magic. The black magicians specifically searched for the Squib, because their blood was not contaminated by magic and they used them in dark rituals. But sometime a white magician named Cain protected for the Squib and hid them from the black magicians. Little by little time passed and a war between light magicians and black magicians began. From there the rivalry between dark magicians and light magicians was born. Forgotten by magicians, Squib hidden in special places formed societies, and by the time wizards discovered the Squib population, they had already forgotten the history of the Squib and renamed them the term Muggle, which is the term by which non-magicians are currently known. There was also more information, but it is for another time. I also published a book, which was loved and criticized at the same time, which I called Clash of Two Different Worlds and Naive Minds, which explained why wizards hate Muggle-born people, since they always wanted to impose their Muggle culture on culture and magical traditions, but they never understood that I was in another country called Magical World, which is run by its own rules and customs. This book was very supported by the purebloods, and they even agreed that it would be an educational topic in the wizarding community. I also published another book that was highly criticized, but I know it was a success, because nobody stopped buying and reading it, which I call House Elf Slaves or Irreplaceable Members of a Magic House. It writes everything from the history of elves, their traditions, their history, their connection to magic, and also because they are slaves. I also made a potion for werewolves, which I called Werewolf Annihilator, and its effect is that the werewolves gain access to their animagus wolf transformation and in doing so kill the werewolf transformation virus. To this achievement, I will just say that there were many new registrants in the animagus law department. I think Minerva was very happy to see the British animagus registry grow. I also went to the Dome for my magical masteries. I can say that I was shocking news in the magical community, since I took all the masteries and obtained maximum marks in all the magical branches. Now some call me Max the Great Teacher. I am also the first teacher in white rituals of magical history. Ha ha ha, that's how it is, ladies and gentlemen. I will be remembered by future generations. I was also interviewed by my wife Rita, where she asked me if I could tell her something about my future research, which I said the following: in our magical community there is a problem with squibs, and I am pleased to announce that in about 8 years my investigation of a magic potion, which I will call Returning to the Origin of Magic, each squib will be an accomplished wizard or witch. I would also like to announce that I am preparing a future for our magical community in general. But it will be a surprise for the future. Also note that Puppet Boy or Voldemort was gathering his followers, but discreetly in the dark. I think that for the coming year he will act in his rise to power. The nosy old Albus wanted to talk to me, but honestly I don't have time for his old age stupid things. I think he wants to put me in his order of chickens in flaming. Now I will tell you, by a couple of house elves whom I call Lacus Servus and Pyram Servus, and I told them to work for noble house Dakin until death and their descendants too, and I gave them the surname Servus, which means servant in Latin. I was very happy, that's why, and I also settled in Ridvia Castle, which was the first thing that was built in the magical city. Bella and Rita moved to live with me in the castle. I spoiled them like princesses. I gave them several gifts to show my affection. We also spent a lot of time together having fun as a couple. I think we are developing many feelings and a very strong bond between us. Bella was focused on being a wife to accompany me in my battles and wants to earn several master's degrees. Rita, on the other hand, is concentrating on the political side and pursuing her career as a famous and successful reporter. One of the bad things about fame is that I received the title the Tyrant Prince that was awarded to me along with the best smile in the magical world, according to the Witch's Heart magazine. My dear Rita also jokingly filtered a photo of me, where my shirtless body was trained and showing my abs and muscles, and it was published in the famous Witch's Heart magazine. Let me tell you, it was not funny at all. I had to hire staff to process all my letters and mail. So many witches of all ages that I wondered what my secret beauty was, if I was single and stuff. So to divert attention from me, I decided to launch a book titled How to See Yourself as a God or a Goddess at All Times of Your Life, with an arrogant title, and was sold at a pretty high price. But in this book I posted with several spells for daily body care and body grooming, as well as couple of spells to look presentable. An unfortunate event that happened is that Andromeda eloped with her muggle-born boyfriend Edward Ted Tonks, and they almost disowned her from House Black, but thanks to my intervention they did not. But I feel that this is not as simple as it seems, and I feel that the nosy old man is involved. According to Bellatrix and Narcissa, she had no one she liked at school, and they were very confident, because they play the magical game of reading minds with legilimency. This was a very old and ancient game that helped young wizards and witches defend their minds while having fun, but it was banned when the nosy old Albus came to power. So I quickly tracked them down with the spell created by my so-called scimitar hominum, finding them in an abandoned cabin ready for the act of sex. But I went in at the door and cast the Immobulus spell on both of them. When immobilizing them I noticed that something is bad on both and quickly cast a salute status spell on them. What I found was a potion of mutual love in both of them. There was only one person who benefits from this, and that would be the nosy old Albus. So I took Andromeda in my arms like a princess. I got rid of the Effecto Love potion. I also modified the mind of Ted Tonks. By the time I woke up I thought that the one who entered the cabin was Druella, the mother Andromeda. I also made a dramatic scene worthy of an award for my performance. I also sent a message to the goblins to find out who was the owner of the cabin, because Ted's mind was showing the address, but not who told him. Quickly take me to Andromeda. One thing I found out from reading Andromeda's mind is that she was in love with me. It's pretty cute if you see it from a different perspective. Appearing at the Black Mansion, and there was an enraged family, because nobody expected Andromeda to elope with her lover. and the worst thing is that the newspaper The Prophet had already published the news, and the only good thing is that it did not say who the boyfriend was. Everything this pointed to House Black to discredit in public opinion. These guys are ready for war, and then they say that the members of House Black are not loving, I think, and burst into the room saying, I think everyone should calm down, because things are not as simple as it seems. Drella was crying. When she saw me, she ran and hugged Andromeda in her arms. Where was Andromeda? She would never do something like that, because among my daughters she is the most sensible. It is very simple. The great Dark Lord wanted to discredit your Black House, tarnishing your reputation with public opinion, and I think he is aimed at the position of Chief Witch that you have, Archeress, I say, but think. Perhaps that is how he got the title of Head of Sorcerer. Who would have thought that that half-breed would dare to target House Black, says Archeress, probing them with legilimency. I saw that he was thinking of, what a malicious and intelligent bastard, let your guard down. Smile, because they did not realize that it was the great Dark Lord. I think they are wrong. The person who planned this is the nosy old Albus, and it was Albus who disclosed that Andromeda ran away from his Black House. I quickly saw an enraged crowd. It seems that if he met the old man at this time they would kill him with the most horrible torture you can imagine. Alphard, who was very clever, realized I was referring to Albus. Max, please tell us everything, because I don't understand what this has to do with the girl eloping with the Muggle-born boy. Comment. 9 comments. Vote. Chapter 13. Chapter 13. Take a wife and you can take another wife. Chapter 13. Take a wife and you can take another wife. I began to explain to the members of House Black what was happening. They all looked at me as if I had illuminated their life. I could see that Andromeda had woken up, but she was pretending to be asleep, but I saw that she was clenching her fists with strength. I think House Black took under guard and almost paid the price with their reputation. I can be sure old Albus' next move would be, I say, as I pause and continue dramatic, it would be to put one of the sons of House Black in the House of the Hypocrites Gryffindor or the House of the Sheep Hufflepuff. In my opinion, I like the Hufflepuff. They are so loyal, that they marvel your eyes. At the end my words looked into the astonished eyes of the members of the Black House. Clearly they would think of, first dead than being a Gryffindor. I will never allow any of my children to be a sheep, says Wahlberger with determination, and when I probed her with legilimency I saw that she was thinking about, I will not allow it. If it happens I will take my son out of Hogwarts immediately. It seems that they still do not realize that they are inside old Albus' chessboard. I think and tell them, but there your children will go, either Sirius or Regulus, and those are plans of the nosy old man. Now we can play fools or we can play the smart ones in this Albus chessboard. When probing with legilimency I saw what was thought. It seems that they forgot about my daughter. I must speak for her and solve her reputation, thinks Drella, and asks, but what will we do with my daughter's reputation? Now no nobleman will want to marry her. Why will they say that it is stained? I can take Dora as my wife, but I don't know if you want to accept that I say and think. Bella and Rita have been pressuring me to get a third wife or a partner to help them in their fight to defeat the dragon. When probing her with legilimency I saw that she was thinking about that. Excellent. Now if I play my cards correctly, I can suggest that I take Sissy as a wife and I will no longer have concerns about my daughters, thinks Drella. I certainly agree, but we will have to ask Dora when she wakes up. Dora jumps to announce her answer. I want to, it's more I accept right now. Dora's comment was somewhat comical and funny, making the people in the room laugh. That's good, I won't have to worry about getting my third wife anymore, I think, and with a smile he asks her jokingly, and I thought you didn't like me. Silly. I clearly liked you from the first time we met, says Dora. On probing with legilimency I saw that he was thinking about, how silly, How can you say that you don't like me after reading my mind? I have to make him take responsibility. Max, do you plan to take all my daughters as your wives? Driller asks seriously, but I knew he was joking and also offering me to take his other daughter. Well, what can I do when your daughters took out your genes? I say with a flattering smile and giving him a compliment for his beauty. Driller proudly says it's true, my daughters brought out my beauty. So what can we do? My children are in danger, says Wahlberger. So I started to tell you a plan, and it was that we can put a semi-ring created by the goblin, and what the ring does will be a surprise for later. And so several hours passed. I prepared to go to my castle with Dora. She approached me with a luggage and said adorably, "Husband, are we leaving yet?" Dora asks in a very adorable way. This girl is tempting me, I think, and smiling I say, "Oh dear wife, you look as beautiful as a rose, only more provocative. Tell me what you need to finish this school of dupes, and what do you want to do in the future?" When probing her with legilimency, I saw that she was thinking about, I must answer seriously so that she takes me seriously, thinks Dora with determination. Says I can already take the test to graduate, and I would like to be a healer and teacher in potions, but I stayed in school because I wanted to spend time with my sister Sissy. He's certainly adorable but very smart, I think, and with a smile I say, "Okay, then let's go home, my wife." When probing her with legilimency, I saw that she was thinking about, I can't forget about Sissy, it's better for us sisters to be together, Dora thinks, and says, "By the way, my sister Sissy likes you." Sissy, who was spying on him and looks at Dora with an envious look on her face, is taken by surprise by the comment and unconsciously jumps up and says, "Sister, you promised not to tell her anything." So that's why Bella was so sure that Dora didn't like anyone at school. Driller, seems like I'll also take your other daughter as my wife, I say with a smile. Clearly, he was delighted to have another wife as well. What? Asked Driller. When I probed her with legitimacy, I saw that she was thinking, "Oh, by Merlin, how happy I am, my 3 daughters married with a good husband and from a noble and respectable house. I have fulfilled my role as mother," thinks Dula, and with a proud smile she says, "Good, it is better that they are with you than with an incompetent fool. You will relieve me of my worries as a mother, but you will be able to with 4 fiery and horny wives." I laughed out loud as I thought, the truth, since I came to this world I have felt an insatiable sensation for sex, and I don't know if it is because of my lineage or because I want to monopolize a beautiful woman that interests me. I say with a mischievous smile, "What can I say? Your son-in-law is an insatiable stud, and I hope he is ready, because I will give you a couple of grandchildren soon." When I probed her with legilimency, I saw that she was thinking about, "What a cheeky man. I hope they give me those grandchildren soon." Driller thinks and says, "Well, Sissy can't go with you yet, and we can sign the marriage contract so she has magical protection in case something happens." "That's fine by me. What do you think, Sissy? Would you like to be mine for all eternity?" I say in a seductive way while I see them nervous and blushing all over, with a little shyness. But if you look closely, I was overflowing with joy, so I couldn't help but joke and ask out of curiosity. "But Sissy, you didn't like that Malfoy boy." I thought he wouldn't ask, but he did, and I can only tell you the truth. "I'm sorry, Lucius, but I can't keep secrets from my husband," thinks Sissy, bows her head in shame and disguised anger. "I liked it a lot until I realized that he is homosexual. That bastard, I discovered him 1 year ago kissing with a man in an abandoned salon, and I told him that I was not going to marry him. I slapped him and also told my great-uncle Archerus that he agreed with my decision. I had my suspicions, but this answers it, I think," and with a cheerful tone I say, "Sissy, when you finish your studies you will move to Ridvia Castle, meanwhile we will talk with this 2-way mirror, take care of it. It is quite expensive." "I'll take good care of him," says Sissy. When probing her with legilimency I saw that she was thinking, "She treasures it forever, it's the first gift you give me." "Bye Sissy," I say. I disappeared with apparition. The sight changed. I was in my Ridvia castle. Then I took Dora to her room. She was pouting for some reason that I did not understand, so I hugged her from the back. I whispered softly in her ear, "What's wrong, my wife?" When probing her with legilimency I saw that she was thinking about, "Oh, she didn't discover me." Well, I can only be honest. Dora thinks, and she replied, "I thought you would take me your room and we would do this and that. I am not pretty enough for you." With a smile, he gently bites her earlobe. "What a wild imagination you have, dear wife. Well, what if you let me show you the room in detail?" The door of the room was closed and for more than 5 hours seductive moans were heard from the room, but I will not go into detail. POV Edward Ted Tonks. The strangest thing happened to me today. It was that I felt love for Andromeda Black and was supposed to love her, but the truth was I hated her. Because he always despised me for being Muggle-born. Now I wonder how I got to an abandoned cabin and was ready to do the forbidden act with Andromeda. But suddenly Andromeda's mother arrived and she seemed to me like a pretty decent lady worried about her daughter. What happened next was even stranger. Because Mother Andromeda tried to talk to her daughter, but Andromeda seemed possessed and couldn't reason with her mother. It seemed that inspiration hit her when she realized that it could be something magical, and she quickly cast spells on her daughter and me. What he found was not good at all. It seems that someone had dosed us with a medium-level mutual love potion, and I almost defecated in my pants when Andromeda's mother explained. What if a wizard and witch without any magical bond? To simplify, two virgins, they have sex. They automatically marry before magic as a witness and make a bond with magic unbreakable, which is impossible to separate. For that reason all pure-blood witches are always accompanied with their friends at school, and if I was lucky, that Mother Andromeda was a woman who cared about her daughter and stopped us from doing something stupid. That I am sure that we would regret it in the future, and I did not want to marry as a young man, without any wealth. I had not even had a formal girlfriend, and worse still, since I am going to marry immediately, I have not even enjoyed life. Oh yeah, someone almost duped me into a pure-blood power play, and Mrs. Black told me it might be someone from my Hufflepuff household. I walked back little by little, but in my mind I wondered who told me the address of the cabin, and because I did not know that place, little by little I began to worry even more. Unbeknownst to me I had gone back to school and met my Hufflepuff friends. I know none of them were, because we are Muggle-born. So I told them what happened to me, and one of them quickly told me something that you will never forget. It was that apparently yesterday they called me the director's office with Andromeda. I quickly did my mental calculations, and as if something enlightened me, I came to the conclusion that the culprit was the director, but because he would do this to me, and then I understood everything. I was just a pawn in their game. The real target was House Black, and they say it is the third richest noble house in Britain, and members of House Black have many positions in many branches of power. The current head of the Witches of the Wizengamot is a Black. There are only a few days left to finish Hogwarts. I will pass my exams in silence, and from today I will not eat in the Great Hall, and I will go directly to eat in the kitchen with house elves. Call me paranoid, but now I will try to be the least visible and not excel at anything. Only Merlin would know what that old bastard headmaster was planning. Comment. 11 comments. Vote. Chapter 14, Chapter 14, 7 months and planning a vacation in France. Chapter 14, 7 months and planning a vacation in France. Friday the 8th of May, 1970. Well, 7 months went by in the blink of an eye. It makes me think how time flies when you're having fun. Currently I have been in the Harry Potter world for more than a year. Sissy graduated early from Hogwarts and started living in the castle, and let me tell you that she is a very fiery and horny young wife. I know they would criticize me for what I am going to say, but having 4 wives is exhausting, and especially on certain days of the month, since on those days they always want me to pamper them. Which I do with pleasure and joy, but it almost exhausts me a lot. However, thanks to Father Morgan I have magic, ha ha ha. So I did what any wizard in my place would do. I made up a potion which I called Relieved Woman, and it may not have a great name, but in my defense it was highly regarded by the witches of the world. Since it is currently selling very well in my potions stores, which are located in different parts of the world. Also my relationship with Dora has progressed since that day I brought her to the castle and we had a glorious afternoon. Dora graduated from Hogwarts and is currently training to have a potions master and a healer. However, I also made him train to learn to defend himself. One can never be sufficiently prepared for the future, as you never know what might happen, and my beautiful Dora is quite strict, disciplined and very responsible. She has devoted a lot of time to her training, about 7 hours a day, and you must from time to time help her train wandless magic. She was surprised at first, but when I showed her how easy it was to do magic. Sure, my method spends more magic, but over time it will help you generate more magic reserves, and I plan to leave this method for my children and descendants. Because I know that I will have a large family, since I will have a long life of more than 500 years. Bella, on the other hand, had progressed in her studies remarkably, especially battle magic and the art of dueling. She was a lethal witch. Hit wizard was currently working, and as Bella is female the term is hit witch, the adorably sadistic and incredibly lethal hit witch Bellatrix Dakin. Although Bella appears to be very sadistic in her actions, but deep down she is a masochist who likes her husband to treat her rough, and one thing I noticed about Bella is that she likes to torture criminals, to which I had no problem giving her 1 or 2 tips, and if I may be a bit sadistic too, I also subtly suggested that if she catches a criminal alive, cut off her leg and arm or both arms, then she will deliver them alive. The law clearly says that as long as you deliver him alive, it does not matter under what conditions you deliver the criminal, and because by becoming a criminal, he lost all the rights of a magician under the law of the Ministry of Magic. To which my dear Bella asked me why, and I told her that way I would never think of retaliating against our children or our family. After that conversation, my dear wife Bella earned the title of the sadistic Bellatrix among her co-workers. And now, my dear Rita, you may be wondering what our beautiful and sexy reporter is doing. Well, she in particular is being the best that Rita can do, and that is destroy reputations among other things. Her fame as a reporter is incredibly solid. If I weren't her husband I would be afraid of her, and because anyone is her target, and especially Albus Dumbledore. Now I will ask you, how is it possible? And I answered, I was responsible for creating the most lethal information weapon in the world. Why did your server teach him a couple of spells of my own creation, and I won't tell you what they were, because it will be a surprise later. Rita also became a reporter teacher, a grieving teacher, and among other subjects to be based on those areas, since according to her a good reporter to be good in all trades. Voldemort also began to move with great force, as a certain anonymous person gave him a large number of galleons and a note telling him that he supported his cause, but as an international businessman he could not get directly involved. Since he could get his business involved and lose money, but I also told him that I would send him money every month. Now you may be wondering why and for what reason I am sponsoring it. The first reason, it is because in war it consumes a lot of money and resources, because without money there is no war, and without war there is no child of prophecy and a defeated Voldemort. Now another reason why I sponsored it, is that, without House Black to burn money in their war, I had to replace them anonymously and burn my money, so that it follows the Harry Potter timeline. Now why do all this? Well, it's simple. The first thing you must understand is that I can kill Voldemort quickly, but that would not be very viable since no one would care. As a reward, he would just give me a pat on the back and a magician thank you. The second thing you must understand is that magicians are so stupid, that if you do something for them without their wanting them, they will only drag you down and you will lose much more than noble intentions. A clear example is Albus Dumbledore. When his fight with Grindelwald ended, of course he gained fame and glory, but he is still a poor man who must become a magical guardian of others in order to survive and earn some money by the end of the month. If he had had money from the beginning and influence, he would have used it. The third thing you must understand is that Voldemort is necessary for my plans, because without him there is no prophecy of the child who lived, and if I kill Voldemort, what happens with the prophecy? The course of the world would change and I would sign up to be the new Dark Lord. Also, that old Albus sure would want that to happen, because he would have the perfect excuse to say that I am dark, as he killed his beloved disciple Tom. With that more or less clear. Now, having crazy and wild sex every night for 7 months in a row, it is glorious and the girls are delighted, but I decided to plan a romantic vacation in France to hang out with them, falling in love and indulging them, because you know what they say about relationships: yes, do not nourish it with time, sweetie, and affection. Love fades and only good memories will remain. And when I told them that we were going to Paris on vacation, they jumped for joy and went to plan what I wanted to buy, and I know that my vaults are going to bleed with everything they are going to buy. Time jump of about 4 days. Now we are here in the French ministry applying for visitor permits to vacation for at least 6 to 7 weeks. The place was the same as you would see in the Fantastic Beasts movie The Crimes of Grindelwald. Husband, don't you think the receptionist is pretty? Dora asks. Clearly this girl wants me to find a 5th wife, but I still don't want to. I know what she's trying, but I already have enough of a headache with 4 wives. I think and say she is pretty, like any woman I have ever met, and I think that all women in the world have their own beauty. The receptionist stared at me in a strange way, with a touch of disorientation, trying to remember something and then looking down at the documents to find my name. I immediately recognized me and jumped like an excited and happy girl. Oh my Merlin, it's the prince, please sign my book. I had been slow to recognize it, says Bella with a touch of zeal in her tone. Clearly she wanted me only for her and her sisters. Certainly our husband is a very handsome man with a sexy body, says Sissy, agreeing with her sister. It's the price of fame and being devastatingly attractive, says Rita in a provocative way. Clearly, she was teasing me. The young receptionist was shy, but very excited and happy since she had been able to meet Idol was in front of her. On the other hand, I was thinking that I must have been famous in my other life, and because I was getting used to it naturally. With a bright and joyful smile, well, my loves, you can't blame your husband for being a little famous, and he has some wealth to give well-being to our family and our future descendants. I think I did well, because I looked at my wives and the ladies around them were all flushed and some were giving her looks of envy and jealousy. Also the men around me only looked at me with envy, admiration and jealousy. I couldn't blame them for their envy and jealousy, given that I was surrounded by 4 beautiful wives. I took the young receptionist's book in my hand and signed it with a dedication, and handed it to her right there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am going to treasure it, as a treasure of my family from generation to generation. Here are your passes and sorry for the delay, says the young receptionist seriously. No problem, says Bella. Where will we stay, husband? Dora asks. In Villa Dragala. It is a beautiful place to vacation and my mother loved that place very much, I say with a remembered smile. I remember the memories that came to my mind. The girls suddenly hug me and I hug them too. I didn't care that they looked at me while showing my affection in public. It's okay, my love, now we're with you. I know you miss your mother, but we're going to our house. People are watching us a lot, says Sissy in a sympathetic tone. With a smile, I kissed the foreheads of my wives and said, well, let's go home, my loves. Quickly I appeared in front of a beautiful white marble villa with decorations in pure gold and multicolored gems. My great-uncle Brutus Vlad Dovahkiin lived in this villa and he loved to live in luxurious places, surrounded by gold. However, he does not like noise and given what he would prefer quiet. Lacus and Piram, I say seriously and amplifying a bit of magic to my voice. The pair of elves appeared in front of me, well dressed in elegant Victorian butler clothes for Lacus and Victorian maid clothes for Piram. They said with a bow. How can we serve you, Master Dragon? Both house elves say with an elegant bow. Comment. 5 comments. Vote. Chapter 15. Chapter 15. Vacation in France and the Magnificent Villa Dragala. Chapter 15. Vacation in France and the Magnificent Villa Dragala. The pair of elves appeared in front of me, well dressed in elegant Victorian butler clothes for Lacus and Victorian maid clothes for Piram. They said with a bow. Can we serve you, Master Dragon? Both house elves say with an elegant bow. Are you wondering? Because the etiquette of my house elves is different from other house elves, and that is easy to answer, because I trained them and taught them many things. I also brainwashed them by telling them that they were house elves superior to their brothers, and that is why they possessed the surname Service. Also why it serves the noble and ancestral house of the Dovahkiin, who are related to Merlin and Morgana himself. Thank you that you accepted a superior label from a Victorian servant, and you can even take liberties to strengthen House Dovahkiin and can serve wholeheartedly. I even showed them the grand shrine of serfdom, so they can see their fate when they die for the Dovahkiin house and that of their descendants. Do you wonder why such a place exists? It turns out that about 900 years ago, one of my ancestors did not like to hang the heads of their house elves on a wall. Since I saw it very barbaric. The problem was that he had to show some kind of benefit to the house elves, so that they could continue working with devotion for House Dovahkiin, and so he devised and invented the Sanctuary of Serfdom. That he would give house elves the honor of having a 12-inch gold statuette and a plaque of honor with a dedication. You can already imagine that the house elves of my house Dovahkiin from generation to generation worked with great devotion and dedication, so that one day they would have that honor. My ancestors made a rule that to determine the years of servitude of a house elf would be counted in words, and that means that a year of servitude is a word. For example, if you worked for Dovahkiin house for 20 years, then 20 words of dedication were dedicated to you on your plaque of honor and along with your statuette. Now back to the point. Lacus, you will take care of the supplies and unpack all the things, then you will take care of fixing the garden and its surroundings, I say with authority. Way to go, Master Dragon. Lacus responds respectfully. This Lacus boy is well trained, and it was worth it. The hours I spent washing his brain. I think and say to him, Piram, I want you to take care of the cleaning and the food. I want a strawberry cake for dessert. For the rest, you can proceed at your discretion, but follow the family's nutritious diet. Yes, Master Dragon, I won't let you down. Piram responds proudly. Both elves bow and disappear. When probing with legilimency I saw that he was thinking about, no matter how much I see it, they do not look like house elves, thought Dora, and says, you know husband, no matter how many times I see them, and it always seems amazing to me, how you transformed these house elves into servants of so high quality. When probing with legilimency I saw that he was thinking of, it is true, they do not look anything like house elves and are even proud and serve you without calling them, thought Sissy, and says, I certainly never thought house elves would be like this. Bella and Rita strategically surrounded me in a sexual and horny way. I believe both women who were anxious and lustful since we arrived at the French ministry, because I know that I excite them, that many women looked at them with envy and jealousy. For their actions they promised to open every part of the house with wild sex and overflowing passion. Our husband is a talented man, although his greatest and most notable talent is satisfying the lust of his wives, Bella says as she runs her hand over my chest, and clearly she was seducing me. I don't know, Bella, I think I'll try it out there today to see if it can do it, says Rita, but I could see her hand running down my back. With Rita hugging me, touching me and kissing my neck, tempting me from behind. And a sexy Bella, who was in front of me, kissed me and caressed my great friend. On the other hand, Dora and Sissy, seeing Bella and Rita's blatantly lustful actions, they walk towards me, from my right and left, start to join in the fun. I know Dora and Sissy are shy, but once they get turned on they put shyness aside. I must show my worth as the man of the house, I say with determination. I started using my secret technique, the hands of the void, which is just a little bit of well-directed telekinesis. I started massaging and touching his breasts, his bottoms, with some pellicos and squeezes here and there. You could already imagine the beautiful moans they made, and little by little I began to undress them, the passion between us overflowing like a volcano in eruption of lust. So we spent the rest of the day having crazy and wild sex. Some days after, little by little the days of our vacation in France passed. After the first 2 weeks the girls were more than satisfied with sex, and we started going out to different places to have personal dates and group dates. I'll tell you, it was like we were in heat. Anywhere they craved we had sex here and there. Arguably we were horny and open-minded, having sex outdoors. Sure, I secretly did privacy magic, but I never mentioned it to my wives, and it was because they like the feeling that they could discover us, and who am I to take that feeling away from them? Days after, it was the 4th week of our vacation in France, the girls started doing things individually and why they wanted to have ingredients for their own potions, buy clothes and among other things. Never would you imagine the unnecessary things they bought, but as a good husband I must pay and keep quiet to have a happy sex life. Also, it's not that I'm short on money, and it's just that the girls spent the money like it was water. Now he had some free time, he decides to go out to buy fresh ingredients and cook a romantic dinner for my wives. While walking and doing my shopping in the magical French market, I observed a grandmother who seemed to be suffering when carrying her purchases. When I saw her I remembered my grandmother Iris, and I approached her disinterestedly, to ask her kindly. I said to her in French, "Excuse me, my lady, I couldn't help but notice that you are having a hard time carrying your purchases. If you allow me, I have some free time and I would like to help you. Since you remind me a lot of my grandmother." Point of view of a passerby grandmother. Today was another day like any other day in my 600 years, but there was something that told me it would be different, and the last time I had this feeling was when my husband brought in that naughty boy Albus as an apprentice over 60 years ago. Since we fell in love we have been together on this trip. Today as every day we have breakfast together, and of course, with age little by little our body gave way and no longer responds to us as before. But we still had our magic, and little by using it and erring, we were able to improve it, and thus we used telekinesis for almost all our activities. In our long life of marriage we were always very close. Of course we had our disagreements and we argued, but my husband always apologized almost immediately. We always wanted to have a child, but I was never able to conceive, and it was one of the most regrettable things in my long life. About 4 weeks ago, I was able to see activity at Villa Dragala, which is next to ours, and we knew there were people because they were a bit noisy, using our telescope, and we were able to see a very handsome young man with 4 beautiful women. At first we thought that he was a lustful man, that he would bring many different witches every day, and as the days went by, we observed that he treated those 4 women with a lot of affection and love. They looked like young newlyweds, but the sight was strange, and it was because he is a man with 4 wives, which is rare. They reminded me of my younger days with my husband and our romantic nights. Ah, what good times were! Today I went out to replenish our supplies. It was something that I enjoyed and hated to do, since my body did not respond to me as before. In my morning shopping I got distracted by some novelties, and suddenly my young neighbor approached me, and I had to admit he was the most handsome young man I had seen in decades. What caught the attention of the young man is that he looked at me with nostalgia, and that was something new for me. I was very curious, and finally he came to my side and asked me in French something that I had never asked myself in my long years. My young neighbor spoke to me in fairly fluent French. "Excuse me, my lady, I couldn't help but notice that you are having a hard time carrying your purchases. If you allow me, I have some free time and I would like to help you, since you remind me a lot of my grandmother." I was curious about that grandmother, since no one looked like me in years and only the members of my family had a certain resemblance, I think, and asked her with a smile, "And what is your grandmother's name, dear?" My young neighbor replied with a smile, "My grandmother was called Iris Aurora Dovaki in Nice, and she had certain similarities with you in appearance." "Sarah, that wasn't the last name of my sister Morrigan's husband, I think, and keep asking him. Certainly, we may be related, my boy, and it turns out that a long time ago, I had a sister named Morrigan, and she married a man from the Sarah family. We may be talking about the same Morrigan. Certainly my grandmother told me about her stories and how a witch travels the world in her animagus raven form, having adventures and discovering the magical world," says my young neighbor with enthusiasm. "Oh Merlin, I got a relative. After so long, magic must be blessing me at the end of my life, I think, and tell him so. It turns out that we are relatives after all, and you can call me grandma from now on, dear grandson." To be continue. Comment. 4 comments. Vote. Chapter 16, I Have a Grandmother and the Old Man's Story. Chapter 16, I Have a Grandmother and the Old Man's Story. "Oh Merlin, I got a relative. After so long, magic must be blessing me at the end of my life, I think, and tell him so. It turns out that we are relatives after all, and you can call me grandma from now on, dear grandson." Max's point of view. Being called a grandson broke me, since in this world I had no relatives or family. Well, of course I had my wives as my new family, but I think I had a feeling of loneliness that I missed my blood relatives, and it is difficult to express the feeling many new emotions that I had never felt, and I let them out to free myself from this feeling. Instant mastery may be taking its toll on me, amplifying my emotions of longing. I started crying as I hugged grandma with happiness and sadness. It was something unexpected for the grandmother, because she was surprised at the moment of the hug and quickly gave me a warm hug. It seems that she also wanted a grandchild and I wanted a grandmother. It was a strange thing, but it happened to me. And we hugged for quite some time, knowing that Grandma must be tired, and since she is an older woman, I quickly took her to a restaurant. I told him my tragic story, but in an interesting way. I told him about my story and how I felt about longing for my family. I had the strange feeling that I could trust her, and since the family never lies and never betrays you. Well, at least it's like that in magic. The grandmother told me some things about her life and that she was born in 1334. She was a very old woman with a great knowledge of magic in general. I was surprised was her magic levels, which were very high. I think she was officially in the Grand Witch Magic stage quarter. Time flew by, while talking to Grandma, and when I realized it was already night, I had to tell her that my wives must be very worried about me. So I took Grandma to her house, and it was a surprise for me, since her house was very close to my villa. Well, we were practically neighbors, and I told her I would visit her tomorrow. I'll tell you that it seemed tough to separate from me, but time was not on our side, and I have to admit I was also very tough to separate from my grandmother, but tomorrow would be another day. Soon I arrived at Villa Dragola. When I looked around, everything was dark, and yet there were lights on the floor in the shape of a heart. Making a path to the upper rooms, I walked slowly with a smile on my face, and as I climbed the stairs, I made noise with my steps so that I had arrived. I soon reached the door of the master bedroom, and upon opening the door, I was able to discover an unexpected surprise. Inside the room, 4 beautiful women positioned at different provocative and sensual angles. Located in different places on the bed, with a seductive period French lingerie, and in the middle of the bed was a heart-shaped pillow, which had a writing and said, "Eat us, mighty tyrant." Without asking anything, I walked my wives like this, and this would be a long night for me. Soon whispers, screams and moans were heard. The night was young and promised an unforgettable evening. Nicholas Flamel's point of view. My name is Nicholas Flamel. I was born in the year 1327. In the early years of my life, I became obsessed with immortality through alchemy, and since I longed to live for a long time with my own achievement. Because if one could bottle up fame and stop death through potions, then immortality with alchemy was possible. I convinced myself that I could do it, and little by little I started my research. Sometime between my research I met a beautiful witch and fellow alchemist named Flamel. Like me, she was obsessed with alchemy, and I seem to be honest, I fell madly in love with her the moment I met her. Little by little I began to collaborate with her on alchemy projects, looking for a second opinion or another perspective from her point of view, and if we realized it, we became close. When my father saw my close relationship with her, he decided to commit us in marriage, and it is one thing that, to this day, I am grateful to him. I know he did it so that my beloved Flamel would not be taken away from me, and it was because at that time there was a lot of competition to have a respectable marriage between pure bloods. After our engagement I was nervous, because I did not want her to hate me, and so I spoke with her to explain my feelings. Then I learned from her that she was also in love with me. You could never imagine the happiness I felt at that moment, and on impulse I kissed her from the emotion she felt. When I felt her lips I was immersed in the emotion of kissing her, and then I realized what I had done, so I immediately apologized to her. She on the other hand laughed at me and kissed me again. Since that moment we have been inseparable. She has meant everything in my life and is my friend, my lover, my partner, my wife, my soulmate and my everything. It may sound corny, but I have lived day to day falling in love with my wife Flamel, and the first time a dark wizard kidnapped her, my rage was out of me and I went to her rescue. I am not happy to say that I killed every living being that wanted to prevent me from rescuing my beloved wife, and in the end I rescued him, but I was not happy. Because my beloved wife had been hurt and she was sad, because I put her in danger. but she helped me out of that feeling. Today, like every certain day, she went out to buy supplies, and it was a way for her to entertain herself with the news of the time. But every time I went out I worried about her. Today was one of those days that I worried, and because it was too late, I started to worry more. I walked from one side to the other watching the time pass, when suddenly I felt a very powerful apparition, and since I was very sensitive to magic since I was a boy, I also felt the presence of my beloved wife. I walked hurriedly to the window, and there I observed my beloved wife with my young neighbor hugging him. Both seemed very hard to separate. It seemed strange to me that my beloved wife should express herself like that. She must have liked my young neighbor very much, and although it seemed strange to me, since she said he was a lustful man, to have 4 women with him in his villa. But soon I will find out what happens. The door opened and my beloved wife walked in with an emotion she hadn't seen in years. She hasn't seen that look in her eyes since our wedding, which was brimming with happiness. Husband, husband, husband. You won't believe it. But I found a descendant of my sister Morrigan, and he recognized me as her grandmother, ha ha. After so many years looking for clues from my sister, at the end of my life I met his descendants, and I prepared everything for tomorrow. Husband, our grandson is coming to visit, Perenelle says excitedly. I'll be honest, I was puzzled, and because out of nowhere a grandson appeared to us, since he had asked my apprentice Albus to investigate. To find my wife's relatives and use their connections, a result of which from her investigation told me that they were all dead. I came to the conclusion that someone was lying to me, and I did not like the feeling. Honey, I do not want to sound water parties, but you can call your friend the goblin and request that he investigate our young neighbor, I say in a worried tone, because they can cheat on my wife. What are you saying, silly old man? I am his great aunt, and also he showed me a photo of his grandmother. She is identical to my sister Morrigan when she was older, says Perenelle, who was super excited and full of energy. I have to make him investigate, because it may be a coincidence that he gets a descendant of his family, and you can never be sure. I think, and say to him, please darling, for my peace of mind. You could also know more about your grandson, and you know how young people of this time are, they hardly ever mention their achievements. You're right, I'm going to call Ranguk with the 2-way mirror, says Perenelle excitedly. I immediately see my wife take out the mirror and pour her magic on her little by little. But a smile is drawn on my face when I see her excited, and it is clear that she is excited to hear about this grandson of hers. Ranguk asks my Mrs. Perenelle. How can I help you? Perenelle interrupts anxiously. My friend Ranguk, stop the goblin nonsense and let's go to business. Do I want you to tell me some information? Ranguk says, okay, my Mrs. Perenelle. What kind of information do you want to buy? I want information from, Wait, not his name, the only thing I know is, his last name is Dakin, and this is the photo of the young man, says Perenelle, but in a tone as if it were an order and that he would spill everything he knew about his grandson. Ranguk says cautiously, I can confirm it is the young tyrant. What exactly do you want to buy? The young tyrant. He seems to know him, and I hope he is not a dark magician, I think, and he asked me if I hear correctly. The goblin said the tyrant, so he must clarify, what do you mean by the young tyrant? Perenelle shot him a look that, if he didn't shut up, he was going to sleep in another room today. What do you mean with the young tyrant? Also give us all the general information, then you go with one as more detailed. Ranguk tells them the information of the young tyrant is classified from level 1 to level 10, and all the information has various costs in galleons. However, there is higher and more expensive information. But I do not have access to it. Nicholas and Perinel were perplexed because according to their years of experience he must be someone of influence, but what they did not understand is that someone is very young. Well, tell us everything you know. Comment. 1 comment. Vote. Chapter 17. Chapter 17, Shocking Discovery and an Exemplary Grandson. Chapter 17, Shocking Discovery and an Exemplary Grandson. Villa Flamel. Nicholas Flamel's point of view. Ranguk said, well, his full name is Maximilian Stephen Dakin. He is currently Lord Dakin of the noble and ancestral house of Dakin, and he is currently married with 4 wives. The first wife is Rita Dakin, nee Skeeter, mixed race, and is a famous reporter in the British newspaper The Prophet. The second wife is Bellatrix Dakin, nee Black, pure blood, and works as Hit Witch, is also known by the title of the sadistic Bellatrix. The third wife is Andromeda Dakin, nee Black, pure blood, and she is currently serving as a healer. The fourth and last wife is Narcissa Dakin, nee Black, pure blood, and is currently studying her magical masteries, but is more politically inclined. We were dumbfounded, because through time there were only a few noble houses that preserved their heritage, and the noble house Dakin was one of them. Indeed, they were unique, because it prohibited its female members from leaving their noble house, and if there was anyone who wanted to marry a Dakin woman, they had to marry the noble house Dakin and take the surname Dakin. Ranguk continues, young Max at birth, born with great magical power, intelligence and an eidetic memory, his noble house was happy for the luck of having a good heir. At the age of 4 he began his training, from noble etiquette to magic spells. At age 7 his grandfather decided to train him in a Hogwarts study plan, only to be surprised, and since he finished the entire Hogwarts curriculum in 2 years. His grandfather Maximus, worried about his grandson, as he was becoming arrogant and conceited, took him to the world of the goblins. How is it possible, and what happened next? Asked Perinel, was clearly excited. Ranguk, as if remembering something unbelievable, Lord Maximus asked the Goblin King and Council of Elders for a favor to write to the young tyrant at the Goblin Academy. In a record time of 2 years, he managed to beat all the goblins, and it didn't matter how they tried to compete. Be it fighting, accounting, or blacksmithing, the young tyrant was at the top. As a tyrant he ruled the ranks of the goblin world, and it was at that time that he was given the goblin name Tyrant Dragon. It was at that moment that the Tyrant Dragon era began. At age 14 he cheated the Goblin King out of a fighting contract, for the amount of 1 million galleons. His notoriety became legendary. His grandfather had to come for him. Ranguk continues, at 15 his grandfather took him out of the goblin world, to take him to the Muggle world, and where he created an economic world force in a period of 5 years. At the age of 17 he was forbidden to return to Great Britain and began to travel the world, where he earned the title of Bounty Hunter Max the Tyrant Dragon, for trapping, brutalizing, dismembering and torturing powerful dark wizards. In several countries he is idolized as a god, since he was the one who killed and deliver almost all the criminals of those countries. The motto was also created in the magical world of crime of, if your wanted poster is 50,000 galleons, then run or get ready, because the tyrant is coming for you. A wanted poster and catch the criminal is approximately 2 days to 4 days. It is considered the deadliest bounty hunter in the world. Ranguk stared at us for a moment and took a sip of water. And I ask any questions? Please continue, I want to know more, says Perinel with an excited look at her grandson's accomplishments. Ranguk, making a dreamy look of admiration and respect, says, over the years the goblins call him the young tyrant for being an undefeated warrior, a legend as an accountant and businessman, According to rumors, his businesses earn more than 1 million galleons per hour. That is impossible to win 1 million galleons per hour, I said, very surprised. Clearly for me, the sum of 1 million galleons was a very substantial amount. Old fool, you are talking about my grandson here and not your useless apprentice Albus. Oh, my grandson is so outstanding, and he is just like me when he was his age, says Perinelle, clearly surprised by the accomplishments of her grandson. She could only roll her eyes at my wife's nerve and say, please continue. Ranguck continues. At the age of 17 he appeared for the first time to compete in the 1967 Dueling World Tournament, where he won 2 titles, the undefeated Tyrant and 1967 Dueling World Champion. Then he appeared the following year, he won Champion World Dueling 1968. Later he announced to the participants that he would sponsor the prize for the next tournament, with an astronomical amount of 10 million galleons, and if someone could hit him with a spell he would pay that person 500,000 galleons. The following year, it was the chaos in the World Dueling Tournament in January 1969. Ranguck pauses to take a sip of water and continues. There he appeared in the tournament, he won and crushing his opponents. Then he said a few words, it seems that I will be alone, on the top of the mountain for a long time. Then he made another announcement, listen, weak magicians who do not know how to use a spell, return home to their mother and drink her milk to gain strength to face me next year. After the announcement he left with the title World Duel Champion 1969. Dueling fans around the world love him, and dueling competitors consider him the top of the mountain of dueling. The old people thought this boy was a phenomenon of nature. Such an achievement at that age was something shocking and unheard of for us who had already lived more than 600 years. Ranguck says at the age of 19 he learned of the massacre of his house member Dakin. He wanted to return to take revenge, but he obeyed the words of his late grandfather to respect tradition, and that marked a shocking event in the world except Great Britain, given that Max the Tyrant Dragon was back. It was the beginning of his legend as a bounty hunter, because he got criminals among criminals and from slavers, traffickers, dark magicians or dark crazy organizations. Ranguck continues, each and every one of the criminals or crime organization was caught. Those who were not found, hid themselves so as not to be victims of the eyes of the dragon, and such an event was well received by the international magical community, since the index crimes and crimes below zero, for fear of being next on the tyrant's list. Ministries around the world were very grateful, except Great Britain, and even our French ministry reveres him as Merlin. The goblin sees us digesting the information and waiting for us to tell him to continue. He takes a sherbet of water. He had a what look thought of saying to get more galleons. Ranguck continues, when he reached the age of 20 on the 7th of April 1969, he travelled to Great Britain, was received by the British Ministry of Magic, and right there, just arriving, they told him that they had to pay their debts. It was a mistake because they fell out with him. Young tyrant, immediately the next day he went to the Gringotts, he took out accounts and went to the ministry and asked for the repayment of the loan from the ruined house Dovahkiin, which he had lent to the ministry after the Grindelwald War, and played with those old fools from Wizengamo, who could only pay the galleon sum without being able to say anything. The next day I sent the collector's goblins, and through certain means, and bought old notes and debts from other noble houses, and beat the ministry without mercy, which they could not avoid. Let the goblins look at their books and account records. Ha ha ha, those old fools from the Wizengamo, surely they must curse you from time to time, says Nicholas. Ranguck says Max has been nominated twice by the Heart of the Witch magazine for the best smile and the best body most desired by witches. He has master's degrees in different magical branches, of which the one that stands out the most is a magical branch that I believe, and it's called White Rituals, and he's a master in that branch. Nicholas felt a rather unsettling curiosity and asked, what is this magic rituals about? Ranguk with a smile sees us as hermits who knew nothing of the world. This is the branch of magic is the newest and most useful in the entire magical world, since with it you can extend your useful life for no less 500 years just by following in the footsteps. Many older magicians bought their research and wanted to be guided to live longer. Unlike dark rituals which require sacrificing living things, white rituals require magical holiday dates and traditions, such as the Day of the Dead and among other dates that were forgotten. Another cost that must be paid is to make certain specific runes so that magic will be able to enter our bodies naturally and wait for the corresponding dates. Nicholas froze. The boy had found a way to preserve his age without sacrificing almost anything, and it was a devastating blow for me, since I believe the Philosopher's Stone kept my research for me. But the boy sold it in a book generously, and by doing so he removed any inconvenience of jealousy or repercussions. How brilliant is my grandson, my grandson! Of course, he is my grandson too, ha ha ha. I turned around and saw Perenelle full of pride. I thought, old fool, I told you that my grandson is an exemplary grandson, says Perenelle, knowing what her husband was thinking. Comment. 2 comments. Vote. Chapter 18, An exemplary grandson and knowing the identity of the grandmother. Chapter 18, An exemplary grandson and knowing the identity of the grandmother. Perenelle's point of view. Old fool, I told you that my grandson is an exemplary grandson, says Perenelle, knowing what her husband was thinking. Nicholas, as an intelligent man that he is, knew that it was better not to be against his wife in order to have a happy life. He says, it's okay my love, you were right in everything Perenelle, our grandson is exemplary and a prodigy. Please Ranguk, continue to tell us. You are the one who doubted my grandson, I think, and say of course I'm always right. Ranguk says the young tyrant currently has some enmities with 2 people in Britain. The first is a half-breed named Tom Marvolo Riddle who calls himself with the anagram I am Lord Voldemort, who allegedly killed the members of the House Dakin and invested a lot of money in investigating it. Now the second man is Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore because he indirectly trained and led Voldemort astray. Says Ranguk, but then continues and says according to his Gringotts account manager, the young tyrant's revenge will be very catastrophic and deadly. The young tyrant will let him sweeten and get drunk on his stupidity of power and fame and then take everything away from him. What matters to them, just as they took from the members of their noble house. In thoughts Nicholas. I froze, thinking there must be a misunderstanding. But I knew my apprentice Albus well. He had an ambition for greatness and fame. When my wife told me the boy was not to be trusted and I told him I would guide him, or so it was what I thought. There was also the fact of the investigation of my wife's family records and that he could not get anyone alive, but after a few years one appears that had a big house wiped out. I just hope my thoughts be those of a paranoid old man who came of age. In Perenelle's thoughts, I knew that Albus boy was not good at all. Every time he saw the Philosopher's Stone his eyes shone in concealed greed. Now the Albus boy had indirectly or directly supported a Dark Lord. My feminine intuition, she tells me that she did it directly. I hope I am wrong, because if she did, well, she will receive an exemplary punishment from this old woman. Ranguk looked at the faces of the old men through the mirror. They sure seemed angry and knew better than anyone that the young tyrant was not someone benevolent. For that reason the nation of goblins called him tyrant. Seeing the 2 old men, they had already processed the information. I have to confess that I myself am a great admirer of the young tyrant, and he is the role model of every young goblin in the world, and even in the Goblin Academy his story is already told. I don't know how they met him, but I'm sure he's someone very special and he will change the life of everything around him, so get ready. Because his world will change, they will not be able to avoid it, and just as he changed the world of Goblin more than 10 years ago when he came to our Goblin nation. Take care, old friends, that's all the information I have available to the public who are friends with goblins. The goblin's face disappears from the mirror, leaving two old men in silence, and little did he know that the goblin's words would be very true, but they would know later in the future. He was currently processing everything they discovered, and the truth is that the young wizard Max is very promising. That he not only had funds to lead to the economic ruin of the world but also possessed power and prestige in the wizarding community. Both with different thoughts went to bed and thought about what to do the next day. Point of view of Maximum. Villa Dragala. Today was a very beautiful day for me. To get up I looked around me and the mess of clothes scattered in different places, the disordered sheets in the room. In bed I see my beautiful wives, sleeping exhausted from exhaustion from an incredibly satisfying night full of wild sex. One thing I noticed is that having instant mastery is a huge benefit to my body as I adapt quickly and get used to it. I take a cool, refreshing shower, walk out onto the terrace to see the view and drink my coffee. I call Piram to prepare something special for my wives, for when he gets up have something delicious for breakfast, and look up, my eyes see a beautiful sunrise on the horizon. It makes me think how lucky I am to be alive. Little by little I eat some fruit and some bread with bacon and cheese. I then proceed to enjoy my coffee, as I begin to read the information my service spies collected. And there is good news from my spies. It turns out that Voldemort was attacking with force. He even had a duel with Albus Dumbledore where he almost defeated the old man, and he did not count on the old man using his last resort, which would be his phoenix, and shamelessly escaped from the battlefield. While they slaughtered his sheep of light, Rita is sure that he is going to dedicate some beautiful words to the old man in the Daily Prophet, and that gave Voldemort a great boost. For that reason I will reward him anonymously. I sent her some galleons to motivate her, and I also sent her some requests, to see if she could help me by getting rid of certain competitors. Since that way there would be more budget for the cause, and you have to be theatrical in life, if you want to give the illusion of being an unscrupulous businessman. So you can create a fake id, and I will even tell you to create an international ghost company, half famous only for Voldemort, and help him in his cause. He also creates it so that in case one day he becomes intelligent and wants to investigate the provenance of the galleons. On the other hand, Albus many names Dumbledore was on the losing end. I think he was drawing resources and looking for some pure blood ally to burn money in his cause. And like in the Harry Potter canon, I point to the noble house Potter, and it was because it is the third richest noble house in Britain. Since my house Dakin was the first and House Black was the second, fourth House Malfoy, but they moved to France because of the war and wanted to consolidate their power in various parts. Now, old Dumbledore was in crisis, and it was because many noble houses were already on the defensive, and there was even talk in certain circles of influence that they would summon Max the Tyrant Dragon to get rid of that troublemaker from Voldemort, but the old man knew he couldn't sit still and made a move, which put Voldemort in trouble. Which in my opinion is a simple strategy, was to attack the Voldemort supporters in surprise attacks, and thus was able to weaken their momentum. Now they both retreated for a period of time to recover, gather resources, and attack each other again. For those who do not know, in economic terms it is to gather money and burn it again in potions, cures and materials. War burns money fast. The neutral houses of Great Britain were consolidating a solid base, and little by little we began to take the members of their noble houses to safety. that no one knew where it was for everyone's safety, and the place had the name Heligdom. Little by little I began to fill my magical city with people. And if Heligdom, the magic city, was finally built, it is a huge monster with an area that covers a total of 700,000 square kilometers, which has 425,000 square kilometers of land and 275,000 square kilometers of water, with an average altitude of 20 m.s.n.m. It has an artificial oceanic temperate and humid climate, which includes temperatures not much lower than 5 degrees C in winter and not much higher than 32 degrees C in summer. This monster consumed 90% of the galleons that the magic ministry gave me. But you will talk to yourself another time about the magical city. I arranged myself like a noble gentleman. Little by little I walked away with a smile, and because I was going to visit my grandmother at her house, which is very close. And why does she walk home like that? Sometimes it is good to take a walk, it is relaxing, and it is not good to appear in a hurry. Flamel Villa Place. Upon arrival I knock on the door, wait about 5 minutes. I heard the grandmother talking to someone on her way to the door. Flamel opens the door and gives me an excited hug. Welcome, my grandson. With a happy smile he also hugged her back. Thank you, grandmother. Let me introduce you to this old fool, he is my husband and you can call him grandfather, says Flamel. I give him an enthusiastic hug. Hi, grandpa. Nicholas, without being able to say anything, I had to surrender to his wife's wishes. It is a pleasure to have a grandson like you. Grandpa can call me Max, says Maximum. I am Nicholas Flamel, delighted to meet you, and my wife Flamel speaks highly of you, says Maximum. Surprised, he asked, you are that Nicholas Flamel, who created that striking object and called it the Philosopher's Stone? Nicholas for the first time in many years felt strange, so out of curiosity he asked if that Nicholas Flamel is me. Why, is there a problem? Not really, just a little curious why you created the artifact and then published it, but you reserved your findings for yourself. That is why you point to yourself and those you love, since people would covet your treasure, I said, curious. Nicholas, somewhat perplexed and ashamed, said, well, the truth is that I did not tell anyone, but one night I went to drink with some friends and I got drunk. Being drunk I published the Philosopher's Stone. Comment. 6 comments. Vote. Chapter 19, For the Common Good. Chapter 19, For the Common Good. Hi, I'm the author. The news written by the newspaper The Prophet will be inside, The Prophet. Albus point of view. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Director's Office. Today I was having a very bad day. First, there were no lemon drops in the store since someone bought them all, and secondly, my headache was because of that girl Rita, who is a reporter for the newspaper The Prophet. I had to admit that the girl has an incredible talent for getting news and killing your reputation in the process. The worst part is that she wrote the truth and didn't make anything up. Reading the Daily Prophet, the headline read, Lord of Light Albus Dumbledore flees from the duel to death. Damn, this almost ruined my reputation, and the worst thing is that she knew that she secretly founded the Phoenix Order. It seems that I will have to pay a visit to this Rita. To manipulate her mind and put it in the service of the light, I kept reading to see if the girl had discovered something of my plans, for the greater good of the world. Dear British readers, wizards and witches, you will not believe the impact that it is for me to give this news, and yesterday while looking for a news I found out about the meeting between the Lord of Light and the Dark Lord. I went to the place and under my cloak of invisibility, I was able to slip away and observe from a safe place. Upon arrival observe the confrontation of the Wizards of Light and Dark, on the side of light, the illegal vigilantes of the Order of the Phoenix, and was founded by Albus Dumbledore recently to fight against his enemy Dark Lord Voldemort and his Death Eaters. To be honest, it was not a battle, it was a total and one-sided massacre. Well, I don't know what Albus was thinking when he told his vigilante troops that he could only use stunners and non-lethal spells to defend himself, when he himself uses a whole repertoire of spells to kill. Oh, for Merlin, this girl definitely needs a visit for everyone's common good or mine. Calm down, Albus, you must use your secret supply of lemon drops for emergencies. I search the hidden space of my desk and take out a small box with 5 drops of lemon. I eat one and immediately feel my body relax. Now I'll keep reading. When the one-sided slaughter started, it looked like pigs sent to the slaughterhouse, and none of the watchful had proper training from an era or hit wizard certified by our ministry. They were mostly muggle-born and without any magical training or masteries. On the other hand, the dark side was covered by veteran Death Eaters and mastery of their dark arts, because in every spell cast by them was the undoing of the side of light. Albus, seeing the almost lost battle, did something stupid. Instead of retreating and reorganizing or perhaps training his order of illegal vigilantes. No, dear British readers, wizard and witches, our dear Lord of Light foolishly defied the Dark Lord. What I would call an impromptu duel in the heat of battle, and I don't know if he has lost power or has not practiced his spells in a long time, or he's old, but the Dark Lord played with Albus, as if he were an 11-year-old boy in his first year at Hogwarts, and then he almost fatally wounded him. Cornered and without a chance, Albus did something that shocked this reporter. I summon her Phoenix, and you would believe that he would make a flare of fire and eliminate many enemies and give the order to escape to her naive and inexperienced watchers of the Order of the Phoenix. I must take another lemon drop. This Witch of Rita is already on my list of people to visit and straightens to the path of light. Dear British readers, wizards and witches, what I am going to tell you next is something shocking, demotivating and very sad. But what our dear Lord of Light did next when invoking his Phoenix was to escape the battle and leaving behind the naive and inexperienced wizards of the Phoenix Order to their fate. I am sad to say and report which side of the light it was totally butchered and no one survived. While the dark side there were only a few wounded here and there, nothing serious that cannot be cured with a couple of potions and good rest. This is bad. I thought we had killed several. It seems that they played the dead and I will have to pay a couple of visits to the Death Eaters to kill them in person. I cannot allow Tom to get stronger. This reporter is very sad to report that I don't know what Albus Dumbledore was playing when he wanted to lead this group of innocent sheep ready to die, but I can't judge, since maybe he was scared. We will have to wait to see her statement. To be honest, I would not follow Albus Dumbledore, nor will pay me, and because I know would abandon me halfway. It is official, this witch is on my list of people who must disappear. I will find out where she lives, I will visit her and I will get rid of her. I kept reading to see what else I could discover. In other news, at a distance from the Battle of Light and Darkness, our powerful young minister Eugenia Jenkins was present, who gladly gave me a quick interview. As that girl from Eugenia arrived at that place, I certainly must pay her a visit, and I must be cautious. She may be young, but she has a very powerful mental defense. Continue reading. I asked him what he thought, to which he informed me that he had received almost daily visits from Albus Dumbledore and told him that there was a Dark Lord, but he never told us who he was, what his objective was and who were his followers. It seemed to us, the ministry, that this was a personal fight between Albus and, as Dumbledore Tom or Voldemort call him. Through an anonymous source we know that Lord Voldemort is the anagram of Tom Marvolo Riddle, heir to House Gaunt and heir to House Slytherin. How is it possible, myself, to delete every trace of those records? Certainly Rita knows a lot. I must delete it. I eat another drop of lemon and I keep reading. Who was an orphan at birth, but was discovered by Dumbledore at the age of 11 and who became his magical guardian, was further deprived of his rights as a wizard of a more noble and older house. Until he was 23 years old, according to the anonymous source, he was enraged because Albus had seen his stupid face, so he swears to take revenge on his former teacher. What is this? As they know the truth, it will be that he is inventing it and by chance it is successful. If so, that girl has a very powerful and wild imagination. How is it possible, myself, to delete every trace of those records? Certainly Rita knows a lot. I must delete it. I eat another drop of lemon and I keep reading. Who was an orphan at birth, but was discovered by Dumbledore at the age of 11 and who became his magical guardian, was further deprived of his rights as a wizard of a more noble and older house. Until he was 23 years old, according to the anonymous source, he was enraged because Albus had seen his stupid face, so he swears to take revenge on his former teacher. What is this? As they know the truth, it will be that he is inventing it and by chance it is successful. If so, that girl has a very powerful and wild imagination. After traveling the world and training, he returned to demand an apology or on a duel from Albus. But the crazy old man said that he was just an insignificant wizard and not worth his time, to which Voldemort, who changed his name to be announced as a respectable wizard of Wizarding Society. He became enraged and attacked Albus, almost defeating the director. In turn, it was said from an anonymous source that angry and frustrated screams were heard. Given that apparently Albus had stolen something from Voldemort from his trust vault when he was his magical guardian, and apparently Albus was the first to found the Order of the Phoenix. Voldemort, seeing that Albus had followers, went to look for his own to help him. According to our beautiful Minister Eugenia Jenkins, the Ministry will not intervene in this and does not want to encourage the flames of this conflict between two magicians. The only thing they will intervene is to keep safe the innocents who did not join these two sides to fight. This reporter says goodbye to report the truth on another occasion. I will make it clear that this reckless reporter will infiltrate and get an interview with Lord Voldemort himself to find the truth of the matter. If I die in the process, I make it clear that always look for the truth. When I finished reading, I felt an anger like no other had felt. That girl ruined my reputation, but I can get back up. And then there is Minister Jenkins, who did not even feel her on the other side of the battle. I thought it was a naive and incompetent sheep because it is young, but it is becoming a nuisance. I must have been distracted trying to hold back on Tom, and now that it's all that shit I stole from Tom, it was only a couple of million corresponding to my invaluable teaching. Also, the extra galleons are for the common good. I will have to go over many of my plans and manipulate the blacks again. I hope it doesn't go wrong this time, and I never thought Drula was an overprotective mother. The good thing is that I bought that abandoned cabin in Tom's name, and that's probably why they didn't join her cause. Next year the young black heir will come to study at Hogwarts. I must be very careful with my plans, and because the blacks allied themselves with House Dovahkiin. I am disappointed in young Maximilian. I thought he would immediately come and kill Tom, label him the Dark Lord. But young Maximilian is just like his grandfather. He is an intelligent man and does not allow himself to be carried away by circumstances and investigates his own things. The problem is that I have never seen him and I cannot judge him, but he is someone worthy of respect. I like how he played with those old goats from the Wizengamot so that they would give him their galleons. I had not even thought of such a wonderful idea to ruin the nobles and the ministry, and I even benefit from the galleons that I lend on behalf of Tom. Win without losing anything, this is about, for the common good. In addition, I worry about the solid base of the neutrals, who remain on the sidelines while they kill my army, and the problem is that I will have to be patient because I am losing. Also, whoever is funding Tom, his entire Death Eater team is well equipped and it is a great fortune. I will have to drag the Potters to my cause again. But I will have to do it subtle and tactfully, as the current Lord Potter's wife belongs to House Black. I don't know if I can trust her, but I will try, or maybe manipulate them when the young heir comes to study Hogwarts, if that will be a great idea. So many plans and so few followers, maybe a couple of Order of the Phoenix experts live the flames. Apparently Lucius joined the cause of Voldemort since he is in love with him. Our love is one of the reasons why we were wrong so many times, and I know from a good source that Abraxas Malfoy is very angry about that, since due to the stupidity of his son he came into conflict with the Black House. Now the Blacks are repressing their business. Eating his last drop of lemon, Albus says, I have all the time in the world and everything I do is for the common good. Comment. 5 comments. Vote. Chapter 20, Rise to Power of the Dark Lord. Chapter 20, Rise to Power of the Dark Lord. Hello, I am the author. The news written by the newspaper The Prophet will be inside The Prophet. Voldemort's point of view. My name is Lord Voldemort. Things had never gone too well for me, and all thanks to the fact that I have a secret investor. He calls himself Mr. Business, who belongs to a dark syndicate that seeks to monopolize the world from the shadows. They told me that if I could defeat Albus Dumbledore it would help me ruin his reputation, and since they would pay a large sum of galleons to a reporter, to give me an advantage in the war. They bought everything I asked for. I had money to burn and told me to prolong the war to annihilate future threats, that in times of peace nothing can be done to them. But I had no problems, because all I had to do was kill out a couple of fries here and there. When a note came from Mr. Business and he told me to read the newspaper The Prophet, said that he had bought the minister with a large number of galleons, that he would not attack the ministry until she was discharged from his position in 1975. But he told me that if I needed something the required law was on my side while she was in charge. I laughed at that, as my followers tried to buy her, but she refused, and now Mr. Business bought her for the cause. But when I read the newspaper, I was surprised by how well informed Mr. Business was and how I use my story as an orphan to brand Dumbledore as evil. But he changed all the facts that I was half-blood. Instead I branded myself a pure-blood and heir of a noble and ancient house. She even said that Dumbledore stole me. I will have to check my account in the Gringotts to see if this part of the story is true and why it sounds so incredible. In the newspaper it said the following. Lord of Light Albus Dumbledore flees from the duel to the death. An intriguing and powerful title. I liked how it sounded and even imagined when Dumbledore fled from me like a dog. With my very high interest I continued reading the newspaper. Dear British readers, wizards and witches, you will not believe the impact that it is for me to give this news, and yesterday while looking for a news I found out about the meeting between the Lord of Light and the Dark Lord. I went to the place and under my cloak of invisibility, I was able to slip away and observe from a safe place. Upon arrival observe the confrontation of the Wizards of Light and Dark, on the side of Light the illegal vigilantes of the Order of the Phoenix, and was founded by Albus Dumbledore recently to fight against his enemy Dark Lord Voldemort and his Death Eaters. To be honest, it was not a battle, it was a total and one-sided massacre. Well, I don't know what Albus was thinking when he told his vigilante troops that he could only use stunners and non-lethal spells to defend himself, when he himself uses a whole repertoire of spells to kill. Each word said made me laugh with satisfaction, but I kept reading since I did not want to miss anything. When the one-sided slaughter started, it looked like pigs sent to the slaughterhouse. None of the watchful had proper training from an era or hit wizard certified by our ministry. They were mostly muggle-born and without any magical training or masteries. On the other hand, on the dark side he was covered by veteran Death Eaters mastering their dark arts. Each spell cast by them was the bane of the light side. Albus, seeing the battle almost lost, did something stupid. Instead of retreating and reorganizing, and maybe train their order of illegal vigilantes. No, dear British readers, Wizard and Witches, our dear Lord of Light foolishly challenged the Dark Lord to what I would call an impromptu duel in the heat of battle, and I don't know if he has lost his power or has not practiced his spells in much time, or is old, but the Dark Lord played with Albus, as if he were an 11-year-old boy in his first year at Hogwarts, and then he almost fatally wounded him. Cornered and without any opportunity, Albus did something that this reporter left me shocked. He summoned his phoenix, and you would believe that he would make a flare of fire and eliminate many enemies and give the order to escape his naive and inexperienced watchers of the Order of the Phoenix. I certainly laughed at that silly old Dumbledore bringing useless wizards to a war. Only he would come up with something like that. Read on. Dear British readers, Wizards and Witches, what I am going to tell you next is something shocking, demotivating and very sad. But what our dear Lord of Light did next when invoking his phoenix was to escape the battle and leaving behind the naive and inexperienced wizards of the Phoenix Order to their fate. I am sad to say and report which side of the light it was totally butchered and no one survived. While the dark side there were only a few wounded here and there, nothing serious that cannot be cured with a couple of potions and good rest. Even I felt sorry for those muggle-born boys, and the way the girl Rita writes is incredible. Ha ha, it makes me laugh a lot. I kept reading to see what new. This reporter is very sad to inform you that I don't know what Albus Dumbledore was playing when he wanted to lead this group of innocent sheep ready to die, but I can't judge, since maybe he was scared. We will have to wait to see her statement. To be honest, I would not follow Albus Dumbledore, nor will they pay me, and because I know he would abandon me halfway. Ha ha, this girl Rita, ha ha, group of innocent sheep, and I like the term, I will use it in the future, ha ha. I agree with her. Who would follow that old fool in his right mind, and following him is certain death. I kept reading hoping to see what other interesting things they had written in the newspaper. In other news, in a distance from the Battle of Light and Darkness, our powerful and young Minister Eugenia Jenkins was present, who gladly gave me a quick interview, and I asked her what she thought, to which she informed me that she had received visits almost daily of Albus Dumbledore and telling him that there was a Dark Lord, but he never told us who he was, what his goal was and who his followers were. It seemed to us, the ministry, that this was a personal fight between Albus and, as Dumbledore Tom or Voldemort call him. Through an anonymous source we know that Lord Voldemort is the anagram of Tom Marvolo Riddle, heir to House Gaunt and heir to House Slytherin, who was an orphan at birth, but was discovered by Dumbledore at the age of 11 and who became his magical guardian, was also deprived of his rights as a wizard of a more noble and older house. Until he was 23 years old, according to the anonymous source, he was enraged because Albus had seen his idiotic face, so he swore to take revenge on his ex-teacher. After traveling the world and training, he returned to demand an apology or on a duel from Albus. But the crazy old man said that he was just an insignificant wizard and not worth his time. To which Voldemort, who changed his name to be announced as a respectable wizard of Wizarding Society, he became enraged and attacked Albus, almost defeating the director. In turn, it was said from an anonymous source that angry and frustrated screams were heard. Given that Albus had apparently stolen something from Voldemort from his trust vault, when he was his magical guardian, and apparently Albus was the first to found the Order of the Phoenix, Voldemort, seeing that Albus had followers, went to find his own to help him. Oh, for Merlin, what creativity! I am sure that everything is invented, because there was no one there in the battle. I am also sure that the Minister Eugenia was at a noble party organized by one of my followers. Ha ha, so this was the plan of Mr. Business. I certainly used the Minister Eugenia to discredit the old man, and I read on. Everything as the Mr. Business said. Now I can reconcile my position and see what other movement I can make to cause pain to the old man, and I will have to go to the Gringotts to see my vaults of confidence. Inside me I think that part was not invented. Comment. 6 comments. Vote. Chapter 21. Chapter 21. The start of the 1970 World Masters Dueling Championship in France. Chapter 21. The start of the 1970 World Masters Dueling Championship in France. Today was an interesting day for me as the 1970 World Dueling Championship began, since as the World Dueling Champion, I had my place reserved as champion, and in addition to sponsoring the national competitions of different countries, they shook hands to promote the sport. Why did it generate a lot of profit for the host country, and I did the promotions similar to boxing, but based on soccer and some differences. In addition, I put categories by dueling ranges. For the children from 11 to 14 years old, that would be the rank dueling apprentice could win the amount from 1000 G to 5000 G, and then there were the adolescents who wanted to show their worth from 15 to 17 years, dueling rookies who would earn an amount of 10,000 G to 20,000 G. Then comes the category of adults, which includes the rank amateur, who can only participate 3 times and go up in rank or retire from the rank and can win a prize of 100,000 G. Many galleons for fans who want to have fun and earn some money. Then comes the category of the semi-professional rank, which could win about 500,000 G of the prize, and then comes the category of the professional rank, which would win an amount of 1 million G to 3 million depending on the championship event. Then comes the heavyweights, the category of duel masters, and this is where the rank duel masters show all their power. To reach this category you must win 10 championships at professional rank and be certified as a dueling master by your ministry. In this range you make you rich, earned from 10 million G to 20 million G. Now comes the category for the rank Grand Duel Master. This is very difficult to win, since you must face in the arena of the World Championship duel with 10 Duel Master and win your ascension, but if you succeed, you can win fame, glory, and the wealth would be yours. You could make a living from this profession, because if you won a championship in this category the prize would be 100 million G, so much wealth for all your efforts. Now comes the category of kings, the rank dueling legend, or as I like to call it, dueling tyrants. In this category it is difficult to move up, as it required fighting 100 dueling grandmasters at the same time and winning. Also mastering a spell in 1,000 different ways, and in a promotional fight, you could win a lot of galleons. About 500 million for promotional fights and about 1,000,000,000,000 G for championships. With so many galleons, fame, glory, wealth, and your name would go down in the history books, your name immortalized. Such honor was something that made magicians crazy. What they were not very intelligent and they liked battles, but they did not know how to make a living with their magic. In each category there was a champion to defend their titles, and the magicians liked that there was a way to earn a living with his magic, and was also good for the healers and the portioners, since they could gain experience and money, since each participant requires their own team to accompany them. Now, why go through all this headache promoting duelists or battle masters? Simple. After the War of Grindelwald the magicians died, and if it sounds sad, but the problem is that those who remained alive believed themselves powerful. When at that time they were only half strong, since they were at the top they did not want to be outmatched, and so they discreetly banned some magic, leaving the general population weaker. Of course not an extreme case like in Great Britain, that Dumbledore is prohibiting everything, from what can kill him or can overcome it. Using the money as bait, I plan to raise the people magic power level again. In addition, even though you can win a large amount, it does not tell you the dangers, and you should always be careful, because in a duel you can die or be crippled, and that is where your career as a duelist ends. Also, the costs for potions and healings are not cheap at all. And that is why it is difficult to be a healer or a portioner, since the cost of ingredients and materials is very high. They really think it's easy to earn that money. You have to get certified first, and that's a mountain of paperwork, unless you have a magical lawyer to help you with the procedures and paperwork. Aside a magic lawyer, it is one of the best paid jobs there is, and because they must study the magic law, which is an almost impossible task, because a magic law and it has it's against magic law. Here I was, in the French Quidditch stadium at the moment, watching a crowd of people from different countries and ready to spend their galleons. In addition, a modification was made to the stadium with runes to enlarge, so that the stadium was huge and could cover 3 million people. Then food stores of all kinds from different countries came, among top quality food, and there were even hot dog with dragon meat sausage. Let me tell you, it's amazing tasty with magic plant sauce. Brands of magical clothes, toys of the dueling champions, and the clothes they wear for their duels. It was a paradise for any goblin accountant, because the first days of the championship she made millions of galleons just by selling tickets, and whether it was private boxes, public places and the best VIP seats, etc. Now I will tell you my other purpose in participating in the World Duel Championship. I want to maintain my undefeated streak for at least 20 years in a row and promote the duel tournaments more, so that it is a respectable profession. Furthermore, it would have a blind and battle-mad fan base. It would be absolute by the time the Harry Potter plot begins. In addition, being a master of dueling is not very appreciated in the magical community, since in times of war we are worshipped as idols, but in times of peace we are treated like plagues. I have lived it from the memories of my body. I was able to see this treatment in various countries, and now with the influence of the economy, I am driving the profession of the Masters of Grief, which aims to remove the mentality of sheep and put a pair of fangs. Furthermore, with the influence of galleons and a bit of cooperation here and there, the ministries have no choice but to engage and cooperate. Also, who does not want to cooperate when there are so many galleons for each country, and who in their right mind did not want a piece of cake? For next year I will try to establish the World Federation of Duels. It will be something great. Suddenly in the middle of the stage a man appears shouting at the top of his lungs, "Welcome wizards and witches from all over the world, to the most incredible event of the year, the World Master Rank Championship." People in the stands in a frenzy shouting cheers and rumbled in joyous applause. I will be your host, Arman Valalignum. Some could see the competition of promising young wizards and witches, where their young champions were victorious, says Arman in a cheerful way. People went crazy in the stands, animated. There were young, old and old wizards. Also our amateur championship tournaments, which was very animated and favored by the public, who won someone that nobody expected. Fuck, because of that lucky boy I lost my bet, says Arman in a regrettable way. The crowd booed and laughed at the unfortunate host. However, this was what the host wanted, because you could see him smiling. Ungrateful bastards, laughing at my misfortune. Well, then we witnessed our fabulous semi-pro world championship debut, and this time I won my bet. Ungrateful bastards, ha ha, says Arman in a very cheeky way. The very lively crowd was yelling, then booing the host. He even saw a couple of stun spells being cast at him. That made me laugh. Then for our enjoyment, we got to see the great battles of the professional world championship and the people who want to build a career, with a fabulous prize of wealth, fame and honor, says Arman with pride and confidence. The audience in the stands cheered, some even whistled spells, others cursed their luck for not having participated, and some even wanted to see how the duels unfold. Our lucky world champion of the professional rank, the beautiful sweet Alexandra Esmeralda, and who won the grandiose sum of 2 million G, says Oman in a surprised and in love way. The crowd cheerfully chanted the champion's name, until the host said a few words. "Oh Merlin, that girl is single. Oh Merlin, this is my day to meet a beautiful young woman with many galleons. Oman, this is your opportunity to woo a beautiful and rich lady," says Oman cheekily. The angry crowd cast various spells on the host, but he quickly dodged them and said, "Now for our first duel of the round of the 16 most powerful duel masters in the world, a man who has proven time and time again that blood cannot impede your progress in the dueling world." Loud applause for the British champion, Phileas Flitwick, says Oman excited. People went crazy, shouting that Phileas had a couple of fans. Suddenly a well-dressed little man is seen, walking animatedly and enthusiastically to the platform. Now his opponent, a very strict man, disciplined and committed to being the best, Egyptian champion Aziz Zala, says Oman. To be continue. Comment. 21 comments. Vote. Chapter 22, Chapter 22, World Dueling Championship 1970I. Chapter 22, World Dueling Championship 1970I. Here I am, watching the start of the duel between Phileas Flitwick vs Aziz Zala. They were both very good duelists, but my favorite was Phileas, and to be honest I don't know how it was never straight from Hogwarts, since he was a very good professor. I focus again to observe the host. Now his opponent, a very strict man, disciplined and committed to being the best, Egypt champion Aziz Zala, says Oman. The crowd chanted the name Aziz. It seemed he was well liked and had a lot of fans in the stands. A dark-skinned man, wearing an elegant white Egyptian shawl, approaches the platform. Adorned with gold accessories on the forearms and neck, with a muscular upper part and tattooed with hieroglyphs, and the most distinctive feature was his shaved head, focused grey eyes and strange gaze, with a sharp and serious aura. To be honest, the guy dressed like a pharaoh from ancient Egypt, and from the information I get from my spies, he is someone very experienced in magical combat. I kept watching the actions on the platform. Host Oman walks up to the middle of the platform between the two adversaries and says, "Now who will have the knowledge, experience and power to witness and judge such a high-class duel? Let's give a big welcome to retired former champion Aberforth Dumbledore, and he has a long experience of more than 300 duels around the world." You will wonder how I made Aberforth work as a referee. I'll tell you, it was easy, and I only told him that if he worked as a referee, his brother Albus would envy him to death, since it would be known worldwide, instead of being only known in Great Britain. I kept watching the platform. The crowd cheered up, clapping and shouting. Clearly Aberforth had a lot of fans in the dueling world, as the man was well known as a great dueling fighter and had great war experience in the Grindelwald War. Soon a man approached the platform. He was tall and thin, with a well-trained body like that of a fighter, with a great deal of grey hair and a long, stringy beard. His eyes were a brilliant soul-piercing shade of blue and were usually hidden behind the dirty lenses of his glasses. Aberforth, when approaching, says directly, "I want an honourable duel. You can only win the duel by stunning, wounding or what your opponent surrenders, and you cannot kill the opponent, it is understood?" They both answer yes. Both opponents nod, present their wands in keeping with tradition. They turn around and walk the 10 steps, then they turn and look into each other's eyes with great battle intent. Host Oman says, "When the bell rings, the duel begins." Ting, ting. As I watched the duel, I was hungry, so I asked Piram to bring me something delicious and eat while I watch. Suddenly the two collided, their spell, and I heard Oman speak. Host Oman dramatically says Aziz, wasting no time launching an "Oh my Merlin." Phileas dodges it with a set of quick steps and soon launches a and combo at him. The audience could be seen watching the movements of Aziz and Phileas. At other times they exclaimed in amazement and were surprised that they could dodge almost at the last moment. This was the difference of the category of duel masters between with the other categories. Host Amara 7-minute suspension has passed and both opponents are desperately draining their magic to claim victory. Oh my Merlin. Phileas casts a powerful lion transfiguration and dodges Aziz's freezing spell. Both opponents cease their attacks and already tired they look into each other's eyes with a maniacal smile and a great overflowing intention of victory. It was clear that both were battle maniacs. You could even see our referee Aberforth with a maniacal smile as well. Host Oman says dramatically Phileas sees an opportunity to spear. Aziz falls to his knee to the ground. As his legs are not working and he does not give up, he casts a spell. From the stands people awaited the outcome of the battle with an expectant silence. Aberforth was ready to intervene. Phileas dodged the spell, but just as he was about to attack and finish off his opponent, Aziz cast a 3 non-verbal spell combo at him in succession with, and finished off. Aberforth quickly throws him a Phileas protection to soften ground. The winner Aziz Zala. I'll be honest, I didn't expect that. I wholeheartedly wanted Phileas to win and I'm going to have to send him a current book on duels, because his methods are quite rigid. Announcer Oman, oh my Merlin, what a duel, what a dynamite and what kind of ending. Hell, for a moment I thought Phileas would win, but at the moment that nobody expected, Aziz cunningly allowed himself to be struck by the spell and immediately launched it to distract Phileas, and the moment of truth finished Phileas with all his might. Even I thought that Phileas had the victory in the bag. The fans in the stands chanted the name Aziz. You could even see people crying and cursing because of Phileas' bad luck. Surely he had lost a lot of galleons in his bets and perhaps some were sad for Phileas, no one would know. Suddenly the host approached Aziz to ask him something, and that Oman guy was a total gossip. The host Oman approached Aziz, who was being treated by his recovery team. Aziz, what do you think of your opponent? Aziz, with a serious face and a little tired, replied in Egyptian language, I will only say that Mr. Phileas gave everything and I respect him for that, but in the end I longed for victory more than he did. To her comment I will say that she was just lucky, because Phileas did not finish her off when she should. And I kept watching and listening. The crowd of fans, upon hearing the words of their idol, quickly rose in cheers, applause, fanaticism and shouting her name. Aziz, 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 Aziz. Host Oman, Aziz. What are your plans for this year's championship? Aziz looks at me with a big maniacal smile and then looks at the audience and said, actually, I have 2 plans and my first plan is very simple, win all my matches, and my second plan is to defeat El Tyranno. All these guys dream of my defeat and some even dream of my death. The crowd quickly laughs with laughter and I encourage Aziz to give it a try, given that no one has ever challenged the tyrant, much less defeated him. Host Oman saw an opportunity to crush the audience's spirits and smiled, and how do you plan to do that? Since the day he debuted as a world champion in 1967, he has not lost once and has defended his title successfully for 3 consecutive years. Tell me, did you do any secret training? Aziz laughs and says you'll find out soon. Aziz retreats from the platform with the help of his team, while the crowd was alight with cheers and applause, and he certainly shrewdly dodged the question. Honestly guys, I don't expect much from him, and why did he have a hard time defeating Phileas? Host Aman, seeing that he couldn't get anything from Aziz, had a backup plan, so he quickly went to the losing side and quickly closing in on Phileas. Host Aman, tell me, friend Phileas, how did you feel about participating in the World Championship of the Dueling Master category and being ranked among the top 16 strongest magicians in the world? Phileas cheerfully replied, I certainly never thought I'd go this far, and to be ranked as one of the 16 strongest wizards in the world is a great honor. The audience rises in an ovation of applause and encouragement for the little man, who raises his hand in response. Host Aman, Phileas, tell me, I saw many young magicians cheering you on from the stands. Phileas smiles with great pride and tells me those young people, they are my students from Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, who came with me to gain experience and see how wide the world is. The crowd threw another cheer of applause at him, and you could see the odd spectators were quite surprised that Phileas was a teacher. If I did not know that he is a teacher, I would also be surprised. The host Aman responds in surprise, what a man! Who would have guessed that a fierce duelist like you would be a professor at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and you leave me quite surprised. Phileas smiles enthusiastically and says, I'm just doing the best I can, as well as showing my students that there is a vast world to see, and you always have to learn from day to day to be prepared for the present. The crowd is silent, astonished by the little professor's wisdom, and quickly throws another cheer of applause at him. I, on the other hand, agreed with Phileas's words. Certainly, you have to learn from day to day to be prepared for the present and thus be able to face the challenges. To be continue. Creator's thoughts. Mnemonic. I know that some do not like the saga of the tournament, because it is very serious. It adds a little humor and comments from the protagonist to make it more bearable. I hope they give him another chance, and that is because I put a surprise at the tournament. I hope don't miss it. And thanks for the support. I know it's hard to read my story sometimes, but I hope you can excuse me since I don't know anything about English. He helped me with a translator application, where I translate paragraph by paragraph. Comment. 5 comments. Vote. Chapter 23, 1970 World Duel Championship 2. Chapter 23, 1970 World Duel Championship 2. Hello friends, I am your favorite fictional protagonist Maximum. Currently I just watched the Phileas vs Aziz duel. Let me tell you, it was excited, and even I thought Phileas would win. I did not expect Aziz to be stubborn and last second cast a spell that defeats Phileas. I am currently watching the Host Aman Gossiper. Host Aman, Professor, those are great teaching words, haha. Well, my dear friend Phileas, and what do you think of the changes in our grieving community? The animated crowd clapped in recognition. Phileas smiles and responds, certainly the champion tyrant is a man of honor and knows what each of us goes through. By saying we mean all magicians who like to compete and fight with their magical abilities. Certainly for that comment, I will send the books to him. I hope he improves in the future and becomes a powerful dueling grandmaster and perhaps hopefully a dueling legend. The lively crowd nods and claps in recognition. The host Aman, what do you think that duels become a sport worldwide? It is certainly well recognized, but in some parts of our magical community it is not well regarded, so I think I would like everyone to see dueling as the traditional sport that it is, which represents our pride as wizards and which is around the world, Phileas said. The cheering crowd nodded and applauded in recognition and Victorio to Phileas. Host Aman, my friend, you are a very cultured man. I hope you do well and I hope to see you again next year. Phileas in great enthusiasm said it will be a great honor to see us next year. The crowd dismisses Phileas in a standing ovation of applause and recognition. Certainly some would even buy Phileas collectible toys when leaving the stadium. Host Oman walks up to the middle of the platform and says, "We have just witnessed a duel between two powerful wizards. One was left with defeat and the other was victorious." The maddened audience in the stands was screaming and cheering for the two competitors. Host Oman, I hope you are ready to see more, because our next match will be very interesting, and as two powerful wizards will compete for a place to rank among the 8 best wizards in the world. Do you want to see it? The audience in the stands cheerfully cheers up and says yes. Certainly this guy Oman knows how to move the public. Maybe he should give him a bonus for hard work. The host Oman smiles. The next participant has participated 3 years in a row, tried to bring down the tyrant from the top of the dueling world, but failure. However, that did not stop him, since this year he appeared again to fight, the magician who never gives up, Austrian champion Walter Joseph Blast. The audience rejoices, as Walter is one of the favorites and has earned the recognition of the public. A man over 60 can be seen walking to the platform with a cheerful smile greeting the public, wearing a traditional magician's robe. Blue color, he was tall and a bit robust, black hair with gray grays, with a trimmed and well-groomed beard and light blue eyes. I would tell you, that Walter is a stubborn old man, that no matter how many times you beat him he would come back for another beating, and he never gave up. He was always in a good mood. When Walter arrived on the platform, he asked the announcer, "Chico, a man seems to be working hard, and how was that girl from last year? You could marry her." Immediately the crowd laughed at the host's misfortune, as they knew he was a lonely dog. Even I felt sorry for the man. The host, "Oh man, Mr. Walter, the truth is that I tried, but the girl didn't want to go out with me and she married another man. It's sad, boy, to hear it. If you can't find a partner for next year, then this old man will help you establish a marital commitment, and I assure you that you will get married," says Walter. Host, "Oh man, seriously, older?" Walter confidently answers, "Of course." Even I was surprised. Old Walter is known as a natural matchmaker in the dueling circle, because some duelists are very clumsy and cannot find a suitable wife. Host Oman quickly bows. "Then this young man will be counting on you, Mr. Walter." Walter turns around and sees the shocked referee and asks Aberforth, "Old Grunt, are you still alive?" The crowd laughs at the comment. These two old men are known. Walter and Aberforth are rivals and friends in their time. It is just that Aberforth retired and Walter continued with his career as a duelist. Aberforth with a grumpy smile. He answers, "Of course, I'm still alive, stinky old man, and I'm the one who should ask you that you made yourself look even younger than before." Walter laughs. "Ha ha, that's the difference between you and me, old man," I growled. "I am a very cultured and intelligent man, and I have been practicing the white rituals to extend my useful life." Aberforth doubtfully looks around and says, "What, is there such a thing, stinking old man?" Walter laughs and says, "Of course it exists, it's just that it is a difficult knowledge to learn, and I doubt that you can understand it with your limited intelligence, ha ha." Aberforth confidently says, "Of course I'll understand. Who do you think you are, and I'll prove it to you next year. You will see." The host Oman interrupts so that these two old men do not start arguing like children in the middle of the platform, and shouting says, "The next participant is a woman of spectacular beauty and great prestige." The crowd in an ovation of applause contemplated who could be the beauty of which the announcer mentions. The host, the Oman, with a flattering smile says, "It is my pleasure to present one of the sexiest women in the world," and without further ado, a loud ovation to the champion of Russia, Tatiana Alyanovna Romanova, the Empress of Ice, undefeated in his country. Wow, this woman came back this year, I know she will surely be mad at me for treating her like a last time, and since I was not interested in her. Well, she wanted to use me, but I did not want to get involved in any of that, and why is it very complicated? The audience quickly rose to cheers and singing as the champion had a distinctive entrance. You can see from the entrance of the participants, an icy fog spreading rapidly through the atmosphere of the platform. From the background you could hear footsteps of heels walking calmly to the platform. Soon a shadow could be seen to be discerned, but the icy fog was very thick, almost nothing to be distinguished, and soon the shadow stopped in the middle of the platform. The fog dissipates. You can see a 25-year-old woman with an extremely sensual body, an hourglass silhouette, each part of her body well proportioned, white skin, 1.75 m tall, and weighing approximately 59 kilograms, 130 pounds, her curly red hair, vibrant light green eyes, with a proud and smug smile as if she was showing off her beauty. In the stands you could see a large number of magicians with drool in their mouths, and if you looked at their eyes you could see that they were hazy and out of focus, as if they had a very erotic fantasy. You could also observe a group of witches full of admiration, since Tatiana is the role model of what the young witches wanted to be. Tatiana wears a beautiful green dress, with green jade ornaments. From her image you could see that she is a very glamorous and seductive woman. I will only comment that the woman is beautiful and is very lethal. Host Aman was also drooling a bit, but he quietly composed himself and said, "Beautiful Tatiana, how are you this year?" Tatiana watches the poor host trying to gain some image and laughs sexually. He, "Oh dear Aman, it seems you don't see many beautiful women recently." "I'm fine Aman." The host Aman was silent as he did not want to answer her. Tatiana, knowing that he would not say anything, looks around and sees the old Walter. Tatiana with a confident smile says, "Grandpa Walter, you haven't retired yet." To be continue. Comment. 4 comments. Vote. Chapter 24, 1970 World Duel Championship 3. Chapter 24, 1970 World Duel Championship 3. A continuation. Hello friends, how are you all? I'm Max, your favorite protagonist. I was currently watching the dramatic conversation between Walter and Tatiana. To be honest, every time I saw Tatiana I had a bad feeling, and I don't know why. Walter didn't seem offended, rather he laughed and said, "Ha ha, oh little Tatiana, this year this old man will win, and you can't help it." The witches in the stands boo him. Tatiana smiles in derision and says seductively, "Jojo, we'll see that, Grandpa Walter, I hope you have the resistance to back up your words." The audience laughed at the comment. "Ha ha, well you'll see," says Walter. Host Aman seemed a bit embarrassed to speak, but Jump quickly didn't want to get in the middle of these two participants are ready to duel. Walter and Tatiana respond, "We are ready." Host Aman, "Okay, now I'm calling our referee Aberforth to start the duel." Aberforth walks up and says directly, "I want an honorable and fair duel. You can only win the duel by stunning, wounding or your opponent surrender, and you cannot kill the opponent, it is understood?" Walter and Tatiana answer yes. Both competitors present their wands in keeping with tradition. They turn around and walk the 10 steps, then they turn and look into each other's eyes with great battle intent. Host Aman, when the bell rings the duel begins. Ting, ting. For a moment I felt that Tatiana was looking in my direction, and I think that soon I will have a visit from this woman. Tatiana fires a combo of custom spells, and a sphere of frost shoots out at high speed. Walter is surprised, but she tries to protect herself and counter the spell with and succeeds. In the stands people were surprised as nobody expected that. At the moment that Walter trusts himself for having countered the spell and is caught off guard, because he realizes that he is being surrounded by a very dense and cold rain of frost. The icy cold she was feeling was hellish. She tried to cast a spell to warm herself, but Tatiana wouldn't give her that chance. Tatiana smiles seductively and quickly says, "Oh, this woman learned new tricks. I think it must be from my advice, and now she became an ice witch." In the stands the audience was in silence, since I could not imagine what Walter could be going through and since they were also a bit cold, but they kept watching so as not to miss anything. A powerful ice dome can quickly be seen forming around the area where Walter was. You could say that poor old Walter didn't have a chance, or it could be said that Tatiana didn't give him a chance. Aberforth, shocked by the witch's display of power, walks over to examine the area where Walter was and quickly casts a powerful, along with a non-verbal fire spell to melt the dome and heat the area. On the ground you could see old Walter shaking. He seemed to have hypothermia from so much cold. His recovery team quickly approached to help him. Poor old man, Tatiana was ruthless with him and didn't give him a chance, since they were new spells. Host Aman was shivering with cold, but still he felt incredulous at the show of power. It seems that last year's defeat had opened a new path to power for the Ice Empress, since last year he did not possess those new spells. Customized. The crowd in the stands was quietly waiting for the announcement. Aberforth walks up and announces the winner. Walter cannot continue. The winner is Tatiana Alianofna Romanova. The maddened crowd roared in an ovation and shouted her name and even called her by her nickname Tatiana, 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 Ice Empress, Ice Empress, Ice Empress, Tatiana, Ice Empress. When the host Aman saw that he had not had the opportunity to say something, since Tatiana did not give him a chance to narrate anything, he approaches Tatiana and asks Tatiana, "How do you feel about this victory?" Tatiana laughs flirtatiously, puts her hand to her mouth and touches her lips in a sensual way with her finger and says, "I was training very hard all year, but Grandpa Walter seems to have made no progress this year, and I hope he trains for next year and be a formidable competitor." In the stands the wizards and witches were chanting Tatiana's name, but they quickly calmed down to hear her statement. Host Aman sees this as an opportunity and asks Tatiana, "Do you mean you were training specifically to defeat the tyrant and become the world champion?" Tatiana is surprised by the question, but quickly shakes her head and says, looking in my direction, "Actually, I don't know if I can defeat Maximilian, but this lady will try." Tatiana, without giving any more opportunity to ask questions, turns around and walks off the dueling platform. As the crowd roared in cheers and approval of the witch, I, on the other hand, knew that he would soon come to my box to talk or try to seduce me. Host Aman was a little frustrated as I couldn't get anything done. He was trying to figure out what to do next to liven things up, and when he suddenly turns his sights on the losing side and immediately runs to Walter's side to try to get some information out. Host Aman says, "Walter, how are you feeling?" Walter, who was wrapped like a caterpillar between so many sheets to warm himself, replies, "Well, what can I say? It was a crushing defeat. Certainly Tatiana's power level caught me off guard. I never thought of doing my own spells. I think I hadn't thought of which meant the duel master category until I lost. I think I'll retrain these old bones." I laughed at the appearance of Walter was already very funny, all wrapped up like a caterpillar. The crowd cheers in consideration, and you could even see old wizards in the stands crying for Walter, and clearly old Walter had a good number of fans, who were sad that their idol was defeated. But they were stoked in ovations and cheers of encouragement, when they heard that he would return next year. Host Aman comes over and says, "Mr. Walter, but don't forget that you would introduce me to a young witch, so I can get married. The crowd in anger insults the host for being so shameless, but our dear host didn't care about that. Walter laughs and says, what an inconsiderate brat. Don't worry, what I am promised Walter I have always fulfilled, and a good man must always be true to his words. Aberforth, who was silent the whole time, says, stinky old man, I think your time is over and you should withdraw. Walter, enraged, replied, to be continue. P.S. Spell information personalized and invented by the author. Ice sphere spell, which when hit with a ball of frost freezes you from cold. Among its effects freezes your blood circulation and hypothermia. Frozen rain spell, is a rain of snowflakes that cold the area where it is cast. It is a complementary spell with a high concentration of cold in an area or power some type of cold spell. Effects cause freezing. Ice prison spells. The description of this spell is that a dome in the shape of a circle is formed in the thrown area where it concentrates the cold within a thick wall of ice. Comment. 6 comments. Vote. Chapter 25, Chapter 25, World Dueling Championship 4. Chapter 25, World Dueling Championship 4. A continuation. Walter, enraged by the comment, Aberforth replies, what do you mean by that, old man Grumpy, tell me that to my face. Aberforth, with a confident smile, replies, I'm just telling the truth, you stinky old man. They kicked your old ass in less than 1 minute, and if that doesn't give you an idea that your skills are out of date, then I don't know what will. Walter, hearing Aberforth's implacable comment, his eyes turn red and he immediately says as he runs off the platform, you'll see, this old man will train and come back, then let's see what you have to say. I could honestly only admire the never give up spirit of that old man. Host Oman says, that was our very dear Walter Joseph Blast, let's say goodbye to him with loud applause for the magician who never gives up. The public dismissed him in an ovation of applause and shouts, Walter, Walter, Walter. They were quite happy that old Walter promised to return for the next year. Host Oman, with a joyous laugh, says, ha ha, you're ready to see more. Spectators in the stands euphorically shouted, we are ready, we are ready. The host Oman sees the public state in good spirits and smiling says, that's good, because this year we already have classified 2 of the best magicians, among the 8 best magicians in the world, and now I will ask again, they are ready to receive and witness another duel. The audience in the delighted stands was shouting, we are ready, we are ready. You could see the enthusiasm among the wizards and witches. Clearly they wanted to remain observant and have a time of entertainment. Host Oman says, the next entrant is a man who has participated in numerous competitions and has shown his steadfastness and dedication to the sport. Let's welcome Alphard Black. Oh yes, Alphard, as you know, is a madman for battles and is very strategic in his spells. From the entrance of the participants, you can see a man walking elegantly to the platform, looking around him as if evaluating his next steps. Alphard was a man who reflected intelligence and with a cunning look of brown eyes, black hair, of average build, but upright and graceful. With a fairly decent appearance and certain features similar to Sirius Black from the Harry Potter saga, of a height of 1.70 centimeter. He wore elegant black Gothic clothing from Victoria, but with a simple design. The audience in the haunted stands was shouting, Alphard, Alphard, Alphard. It was quite clear that he was highly favored, especially among witches, and it was because Alphard belongs to the prestigious House of Black. He already knew that if they managed to marry him, his future would be well accommodated. I was thinking about what kind of battle they would show me, when I saw the host running towards him, and I quickly asked him in gossip mode. Host Oman cheerfully says, if you can already feel the excitement in the air, Ha ha, Alphard, you are very good at duels, and so much that you have participated in several competitions and have even won some. However, I understand that this is your first time competing in the World Dueling Championship in the category of Dueling Master. Tell me how you feel. Alphard responds, I think I do what I can with the circumstances, but being honest, and I hope to go as far as possible. I really feel very good. Host Oman, you certainly do, I wish you luck. This Oman boy is always gossiping. Sometimes I wonder if he got the wrong career and it's because he looks like a reporter. The audience in the delighted stands was shouting, Alphard, 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 clearly wishing him luck too. The host Oman, now his opponent, a man who has remained undefeated in his country for more than 6 years in a row, the champion of India, Mr. Rabin Patil. With the spell, a Hindu man appears on the platform dressed in a white kurta with a red circular design, an elegant shawl and a white extravagant design red turban. Of average Hindu appearance, with a large black mustache and black eyes. Rabin with smile, Namaste, dear friends. Rabin greets the audience by placing the palms together, pressed one against the other, putting them together under the chin and making a slight bow of the head and body, starting at the waist. This guy from India started participating in dueling championships since he saw the huge numbers and has been participating ever since. The most unique thing about this guy is that if you look at his team of healers and portioners, they are all family. Spectators in the stands euphorically shouted, Rabin, Rabin, Rabin. Host Oman comments, go, this is the fastest entry I have seen, and to witness this match our distinguished referee Aberforth. Aberforth walks up and says directly, I want an honorable and fair duel. You can only win the duel by stunning, wounding or your opponent surrendering, and you cannot kill the opponent, understood? Alphard and Rabin answer yes. Both competitors present their wands in keeping with tradition. They turn around and walk the 10 steps, then they turn and look into each other's eyes with great battle intent. Host Oman, when the bell rings the duel begins. Ting, ting. At that moment I felt a hand seductively touching me, and I said, hello, Tatiana, how are you? Hello my love, I'm fine, how are you? Says with a smile Tatiana. I'm fine, and you could stop doing what you do with your hand. I say, it's not that I didn't like it, it's just that I was getting turned on and it won't be good for me. So you don't like it, that I touch you this way? Tatiana tells me while. Suddenly the door opens and Andromeda walks through the door with Sissy. Are you working hard, husband? Andromeda says with a smile. She is our 5th comrade, says Sissy excitedly. She is Tatiana and she is not the 5th, I tell them in a serious tone. Tatiana, when she saw these two women, calling Mac's husband, was jealous but confused and asked, what do they mean by the 5th? Andromeda smiles and says, I think we should talk. Saying that, they took Tatiana somewhere and only Father Morgan would know what they wanted to talk about. I just thought it wasn't good for me. I could only set my sights on the battle again. Rabin quickly casts the spell, but Alphard reflects it by deflecting the attack with his wand to the right and counter-attacks with the spell. Instantly Rabin observes the attack coming and uses, escaping from the attack. When appearing he uses a powerful transfiguration called, it can be observed that 3 stone soldiers armed stone sword rise from the ground and then use. Alphard, when observing the 3 stone soldiers come to attack him, he casts 4 simultaneous spells, and one for each stone soldier, and the other one is cast at the rabbi who has just appeared in her back. Rabin, knowing that he could not dodge, uses the spell. You can quickly see a translucent sphere that surrounds him, but on impact Alphard's spell is undone. At that moment Alphard observes his spell impact with the translucent sphere and sees an opportunity and immediately casts the spell. immediately he can see a retractable magic rope made of light, which rapidly extends towards Rabin's leg and him, tying it up. Alphard, seeing that his spell has been successful, retracts the rope with Rabin attached to it and spins it in a spiral at high speed. You could see that he was already sure of his victory. Seeing that movement, I thought it would be very difficult to get out of it. Inside the rotating spiral, Rabin devises a way to escape. Concentrating, he casts the spell at the magic rope, immediately cutting it and shooting like a bullet. But this was what Rabin wanted, since he immediately cast the spell and it shoots directly into the sky. At high altitude it stops by inertia and looks down to see the platform. There on the platform you could see Alphard with a big smile. That was great. I wonder how he is going to stop Alphard from defeating him for being a moving target. The crowd that had been silent came to life and I could hear a loud cheer and shouts, Rabin, Alphard, Rabin, Alphard. It could clearly be seen that the magician audience had their favorite. Rabin realizes that he is beginning to lose, and begins to devise a strategy that. To be continue. P.S. Spells used in the chapter. Powerful transmogrification that summons 1 to 3 stone soldiers. That advance the opponent and attack only once, then crumble. Spell to disarm your opponent. This enchantment allows certain objects to be broken or partially cut. It can also generate painful cuts in living beings. Is an enchantment that creates a retractable magic rope made of light. This rope can be used to throw objects at a distance towards the caster or to throw the wizard towards whatever this spell is set on. It is generally used on inanimate targets, although it can be used on plants or animals and people. This spell lifts the caster high. Is a defensive spell that protects the caster. The most useful spell, as you can use it to control your enemies, attack a very powerful repulsion, and it can also defend yourself. Also called a body paralysis curse. If you are not a fan of Harry Potter, it is to appear is the teleportation of the magical world.